Do you want me to do like an explainer about what the fuck this is all about?
Yeah. Go ahead. Set the stage.
All right. So for those who don't know, I met Brian Goldsack through Alex Mulfettis. We needed a podcast guest once, and then you came on. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know what you thought of me as I turn my headphone volume up. I don't know what you thought, but you reached out to me. And then we went up to your property and went for like this long
hike.
To anyone else would be considered some sort of gay.
Yeah, well, it's because we were holding hands. That's why they would.
Well, but they didn't know, and I was going to leave that part out of the story. No. But you insisted on doing it.
Okay.
So, but I think what happened was, it seemed like there was a curiosity between both of us, and I found you incredibly fascinating and interesting and curious and non-judgmental, which I found as a breath of fresh air, especially considering what the last 4 years of my life have been in my head. So I think that's like the quickest, maybe deductive story I could tell about how the hell you and I know each other. And so then I ran for school board, and you're like, yo, we got to have a talk about like your brain. And I was like, can you wait until I win or lose to have that talk? Because if I won, we would still be here. And I lost because apparently registering as a Republican is a bad thing to do in a 60% Democrat town. So
I can't see why, but
it doesn't make sense. So, and that's where we're at. So now we're going to sit here and have this conversation that you dubbed. Do you remember what you dubbed it?
What was the title? Doomsday or Deception.
Yes. So you want to know, if I think you were curious about whether or not I was in the ballpark on some of the things that I thought, or whether or not I was on Mars. And I think that's where the conversation came.
I think a lot of people don't give folks enough time to explain themselves.
I agree.
Especially when the subject matter is conventionally what people might call a conspiracy theory.
Yes.
I try to give people the time to explain themselves, even though, generally speaking, I disagree with almost every conspiracy theory I've ever heard.
Okay.
You, Marky, take the time to clearly articulate your stances, and you back it up, and you've thought a lot about it, and I respect your opinion and the amount of research that you put into these things.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought this conversation would be good, because you're not just kind of pulling these things out of thin air.
Oh yeah, I'm not like adrenochrome.
You read and you dig into things. Yeah. So I feel like if there was anyone that I would have a discussion with about pros and cons of what the heck is actually going on here, is it all part of some massive conspiracy, or is there perhaps no conspiracy occurring? I definitely would want it to be with you.
In other words, if I'm going to lose my virginity, I want it to be you.
But on that note, the craziest thing happened to me today in preparation for this. For this conversation. I'm sitting down at my office, and somebody comes into my office, full decked out. Guy had to be in a $3,000 suit, sunglasses. He hands my secretary an envelope. And the reason I asked you earlier, what is your middle name, is because it was a sealed envelope, and it comes in MPD, and you said your middle name is Paul.
Yeah.
And all it says is they.
Is this real?
I mean, I didn't open it.
Can I do it? Can I just show the camera?
Sure.
Can you see that, Dan?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not opening it.
Now, do you want me to open it, or do you want to
I'll open it. I'm just afraid it's going to be
I like this.
What was that shit?
This is exciting.
What was that shit that they gave people after 9/11? Anthrax?
Yeah, I was kind of holding off on that joke for a little bit.
I'm a little concerned. This is anthrax. Okay. Wait, should I get the smelling salts just in case? Is this real?
I don't know what it is. Are you fucking with me? I wish I knew. I did, out of respect for you, I didn't want to open it because it has your name or your initials.
What is this?
No dust fell out, so that's good.
Can I read this?
Sure, go ahead.
I hope this is from you. Disclaimer, Mr. Dennebaum. On behalf of various entities, including the federal government, NSA, People's Republic of China, FDA, Federal Reserve, World Bank, UN, Pfizer, Rothschild, Fauci, Clinton, and Gates families, FEMA, Democratic National Convention, Illuminati, Freemasons, and the Supreme Council of the New World Order, we kindly request Mr. Mark Paul Dennebaum to discontinue any additional investigations into our supposed collusions. Your persistent and thorough research is a matter of considerable concern for us, as it poses a significant threat to our alleged plot of deceit, undermining our efforts to manipulate, weaken, and control the American population. Therefore, during our recent orgy gathering at their eyes wide shut gathering at the Rothschild Mansion, a consensus was reached to diplomatically urge you to cease any further exploration or discourse regarding our clandestine operations. Non-compliance may potentially expose you and your family to undesirable consequences. Season's greetings, they. The harbingers of enigmatic yore, they.
Oh my God. I should have.
Well, here's what I have to say about this. First of all, to all of them.
To all of they.
To all of they. Oh, who's they, them, or is it they, or who knows?
No, it's the harbingers of
they. The harbingers of enigmatic yore.
Yore?
What I will say this is they don't send letters. It proves you're real.
We should check that for fingerprints.
Marks are all over it now. You ruined it.
I'll call all my people. Well, I mean, so that's where it. Do you want me to tell you how I got to where I am?
Yes.
Okay. So, and I've been thinking about this, and Dan and I talk about it a lot, like just to try to figure out, like, because you were there for the whole thing.
Yeah, I've seen it from the beginning.
He saw the whole flip, and I was a hardcore. In 1988, I was 8 years old, and I loved Michael Dukakis, and I hated George Bush. So I just assumed that I was a Democrat.
Okay.
Right. And for some strange reason, like, political ideology is personality. Like, people think that that's like who you are because you're
synonymous with one another.
Right. And it really isn't. I've come to find that out because there was always those, like, my dad, my grandfather, who I think is one of the greatest men I've ever met in my life. Like, both my grandfathers served in World War II. Let's say this, the poor Irish one was a liberal, and the successful German was conservative. He was my dad's father was a hardcore conservative.
Your father's father was a hardcore.
Yeah, my paternal grandfather, and he was the best, literally like the best dude I ever knew. Hey, when you get a chance, we turn the air down like 4 degrees.
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. So my grandfather was incredibly influential in my life. He was no bullshit. He was a very soft, like like he didn't have a lot of words. So like, but the other side of me, like, was rebellious. It was like, you know, they just kill people and all they care about is corporate profit and blah, blah, blah.
They meaning in this circumstance.
The conservatives.
Got it.
Right. So back when I was like, you know, my teenage years and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, long story short is I lived in LA, which is like the mecca of liberal insanity. Everybody I worked with was insane. And I didn't realize it until, like, not insane, like should be institutionalized, but like sometimes water ain't wet to them. It's something different. And a lot of the times it was very confusing to me because coming from Northeast PA, which is basically like a coal town,
right?
Blue collar, you go there and everything's like so judgmental.
Interesting.
Everybody judges everybody.
I didn't think you would say that. I figured you would say that since it's so open-minded and left-leaning that it's less judgmental.
They're not. It's a very closed circuit of ideas.
It's a very closed circuit of open-minded ideas.
No, I wouldn't say open-minded.
Interesting.
Closed-minded. It's very closed-minded. If you
would they consider themselves closed-minded, or would they say they're open-minded?
They would say they're open-minded.
Okay. I had a feeling.
Yeah. So it wasn't like it was you would be told a thing and you knew in your brain that wasn't true. But if you didn't go along with it, you would be judged.
Are you comfortable giving like even a lighthearted example of something that you encountered out there?
I'll give you like the quickest, stupid, easiest one.
Sure.
Well, I was at a bar one night and it was like a mixer, like industry people.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was single, I wasn't being a scumbag or anything but like, beautiful women are beautiful women. And there was like a couple beautiful women there and I was, casually talking to them. And then one guy I was talking to, and I'll never forget it. Like I was having a good conversation with these women, not to be like, hey, can I bed you in about an hour? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It was just like, it's really nice. Like when pretty people talk to you, it's nice.
It's a nice feeling.
And this one guy came over. Remember Guitar Hero?
Sure.
It had just come out. And what I would do is like in LA, you work 12, 14-hour days, right? So there's no time to drink, only on Saturday. So this is a Saturday night. I promise you, this was a Saturday night.
Okay.
So this guy was talking to me about like the work schedule and everything. And I remember saying to him, I was like, I said, there's this crazy thing. I said, I started playing Guitar Hero when I got home from work to like decompress. And I'm like, like you close your eyes, you see the things going up even in your dreams.
Yes,
like
I remember that. If you look at the floor, it's like
it looks like it's still moving. Yeah. So, and the girl that I was talking to looked at me and went, ugh, you're a gamer, and walked away. And I was like, what the fuck was that? Like, just because I play Guitar Hero? And that's when I started to go like this. What are these people really about?
So she didn't offer you...
No, she wasn't like, oh, that's nice.
She didn't even say like, oh, I'm not into gaming, but kept talking to you.
Nope.
She just ended the conversation there.
She go, you're a gamer, and walked away. And I was like, I don't even fucking game. I just play Guitar Hero. It's like, I have an Xbox. I don't play Xbox games. Him and I play golf or Microsoft Flight Simulator.
I'm allowed to watch him play Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Because he can't fly.
I fly very well. He just doesn't appreciate my skills.
So, and there's something about like, even in my youth, I took advantage of the fact that I lived in LA and came home. Because like every time I came home, it's like, oh, you're from LA, you're this. And I'm like, oh yeah. And you feel like you're hot shit. And I knew I was not hot shit. I knew like I was a production assistant. Like I got to do cool things. I got to work with cool people. Like not all of them are assholes. I just think most of them don't know that they're assholes.
You're smug.
Very, very smug. Like I worked for a lady who was like, if you didn't have her water bottle filled in the morning before she got to the office and it was like a certain temperature, she'd lose her fucking shit. And
certain
I'm like,
pH level. That's big out west.
It's nuts.
I'm like, I went out west about a year and a half ago, and a buddy of mine, he's like, hey, what pH do you want your water at?
I will punch you in the face.
I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah, how about healthy?
pH, but I'm sorry, continue.
So I came home, started my own business. Within 2 weeks, I had to get sober because for some reason I had this epiphany where it's like, oh, this is going to end in absolute disaster if I continue to drink. And what I was doing was I was drinking and then doing cocaine to continue to drink. So that was like the last like 6 weeks of me drinking was waking up in the morning, having Otter Pop margaritas, which is I'd make a margarita and throw in an Otter Pop so it wouldn't taste like margarita. And then I would just drink all day. And then at night, if I went out, I would do cocaine to continue to drink.
I see.
Right. And then there's a longer story about my sobriety, but then it became untenable. So I did AA for 2 weeks. And then I said, all you fucking people make me want to drink. So
AA people.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I then spent the next 10 years being a victim. Nothing was my fault. It was everyone else's fault.
In your mind?
In my mind.
You were victimizing yourself.
Correct.
Okay.
My dad did this when I was 7, or my mom is just never nice to me, or my neighbors, you know what I mean? Like that shit where it's like, it's never my fault.
Right.
But it was always my fault. So I think I've told a story about the mushrooms. Have I?
I'm not sure.
So this was a 10-year period of
this is from 2010 to 2020, right?
Damn. So I knew you when you were just coming down from this.
No. We didn't meet till after 2020.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. It was about 2021, I would say.
Yes. Yeah, we met after that. So in my work, I seem to be the go-to guy for nonprofits that have to deal primarily with pain. You know, whether it's sexual assault from a child, cancer, those are just examples. So every time, like tomorrow I have to do, or Saturday I have to do a cancer event, and I have to do the video for the cancer event, right?
Right.
People don't realize the toll that takes on you. So like if you sit down and you interview somebody about like the loss of a loved one, or like their battle through cancer, or, you know, someone who, you know, I had to do an interview with a girl whose best friend's dad raped her at a party when she was 14. And then so this is what happened in one day. I had to do 2 interviews back to back. One of them was a young woman whose best friend's father raped her when she was 14. And the other one was a young mother whose 9-year-old son committed suicide with her gun.
Oh my!
On the day she was on her way to go to work. And then the neighbor of the duplex called to say, hey, a bullet just went through my wall.
No. Yeah.
And that was January of 2020. And on my way home from that, because the people who I was doing it for, I looked at them when I was real nice. I was like, thanks for talking to me. They walked out, and I just remember just being like, I think my soul has been taken out of me.
Yeah.
And I said to them, I can't touch this for a few weeks. You know, I have to get away from it. And it really affected me. And then on my way home, you know, the Sheets down here, right across from, right behind the Scranton High School.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm at that light. Sheets is on my right. The credit union's on my left. Now, at this time, it was 5:30, 6 o'clock at night.
So this is right after the conversation.
Right after. I was on my way home. My wife ordered takeout. I was going to go pick up raviolis from Vincenzo, whatever the fuck name. So I'm at the light. I'm waiting for the light to turn green. I look to my left and I see a shadow. And I look to my right and I see a car. And for some reason, intuitively, I knew those two things were going to collide. Insofar as I had already dialed 911 before it happened. And I watched a man walking across the street get creamed by an Uber driver.
Oh my God.
Right. And I'm usually good in a crisis situation. So I dialed 911, immediately said at the intersection of blank and blank, here's where, you know, somebody just got hit by a car. I pull over to the side of the road. I get out of the car. I get to within 20 feet of this guy, and there was like a force field. I couldn't get closer, and I didn't know why. And I just froze. By that, you know, within 2 minutes, the cops show up, and I pull him aside. I said, I'm the guy who called. Here's what happened. It was a fucking drunk passenger in an Uber car who was like playing with the driver's hair, and she didn't see him, and she hit him.
Oh my God.
How the fuck did I know that was going to happen?
What happened to?
He flew up in the air like you would see in like
oh my God.
the rally races when somebody gets hit. Yeah. But he had gotten up and then walked over to the bank and kind of like collapsed against the credit union. And I told the cops what happened, and I was like, there was nothing I can do. So I went and picked up raviolis, and I get home and I walk in the house, and I love my wife more than anything in this world. And she was busting my balls. It took you long enough. There was no maliciousness. There was no nothing. And everything that irked me about her in that moment, and I didn't yell. I just went, I don't like when you do this. I don't like when you do that. This pisses me off. That pisses me off. That. And I went like a machine gun. And she just did like the slow Puss in Boots cry. And I went, oh no, I just fucked everything up. I've only been married 7 months.
Wow.
Right?
You're newlyweds.
She walked away. She goes, don't talk to me. And she didn't know what happened.
Right.
She walked away. I couldn't explain it to her. I just didn't have the facilities at the time to explain it to her. So I knew like I fucked up. And I wouldn't go, and I didn't want, I needed to do something. I was getting I was like, that was the point where he was like, well, no one loves me. I'm a piece of shit. You know, what the fuck? I'm like, but let's give it one last Geronimo. And while she was not talking to me, I got on the internet and I just started looking up non-pharmaceutical interventions for depression and trauma. And everything brought me to psychedelics. Everything. So like 2 weeks later, my sister had her birthday. And one of married relatives was there. and I mentioned something because I knew that like maybe this person was in that world a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I had mentioned, what do you know about psychedelics and depression? And it was like, oh, you came to the right person. You're talking to the right person. And I said, I need to. I don't have a choice. Mm-hmm. Either that or I'm going to throw a toaster in my tub. I don't know what to do. So we set up an appointment. I had to MC an event for the video I was doing about trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I can't do it before the event because I don't know what the hell it'll do to my brain.
Sure.
Because it might short circuit me forever. So I said, after the event, I will do it.
Okay. So
on February 22nd, 2020, 022220, I went, I took a hero dose of psychedelics for the first time in my life, blindfolded.
You went right into the deep end, didn't you?
I said, I don't have a choice. Because they were trying to like do like they were like, I went down there, like I told maybe like 4 people. And I did an 1.5-hour interview the day I went and did it.
Wow.
So I can A/B what it was.
I see.
Like who I am before I do this.
Oh, you were being interviewed.
Oh, yeah. I've never watched it. I still have it.
Oh, wow.
I've never watched it. So I did a hero dose of psychedelics on a couch in Old Forge, wearing a gravity blanket and a blindfold, while listening to a broken Spotify playlist that for 6 hours went dong.
That must have been amazing in its own freaky kind of way.
It wasn't as pleasant as I thought it could be. So the best way for me to describe it for anybody who's never taken a psychedelic was it was a 600,000-mile skydive without a parachute while going through 6 years of intense psychotherapy in 5 hours. It's nothing like being drunk. It's nothing like being stoned. Yeah. It's nothing like doing cocaine. And at the end of it, now, for anybody who's ever done it, they know what it is. Like comes in waves and, but I wanted to be blindfolded because all the research I did before I did it was like, this has been around for thousands of years. Mm-hmm. Every culture has used it. It's been used for trauma. It's been used for everything. I remember at the end of it, I walked outside and I wasn't like fully done. This was after like 5 hours where I'm like, I'm beat. Mm-hmm. And I walked outside. It was the clearest, brightest night sky that I've seen since I've been to Santa Fe, the middle of nowhere in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Wow.
It was profound. It was just like, what the fuck? I took my packs of cigarettes. I threw them away in the fire that was out back. I went home to my wife and I just held her for like hours. And the next 3 days were a nightmare.
A nightmare?
Nightmare. I didn't know what it meant. There was nobody there to be like, like post-op.
Right.
I have nobody there for which I later found was something called integration.
Integrating what?
What you learned.
Into
just so you're not losing crazy. Just so you're not going crazy.
Right.
Right. So for 3 days, I like free wrote. And then within like 2 weeks is the lockdowns. So like, I'm trying to figure I'm like, oh my God, I figured out like the meaning of life and we're all going to die.
At the same
time. Right. And my wife, like, God bless her, like she has to put up with me. And I'm like, I am not in the world that we live in. I am an empath. Mm-hmm. I take in everybody's bullshit and I just feel it. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine what I did to her. I feel fucking terrible for the shit that I put her through.
Till death do us part.
I can no longer listen to meditation music because of that.
Really?
She's gonna murder him.
Yeah. She goes, you play that fucking shit in here, I will fucking leave you. Yeah. So once you hear like, once you hear like a 528 hertz, yeah. She's like, turn it off. It gives me anxiety. So we locked down. And now to jump back to when I was 12, 13, 14 years old, remember Unsolved Mysteries?
Sure.
We used to watch that religiously on Mondays. Mondays at 8. And then after that was Rescue 911. Or were they backwards? But that's where I learned that like Sirhan may not have killed Robert Kennedy. Like that was on NBC. It was on national fucking television. Like all these things that would just be like question.
Right.
And for the first 2 weeks of the lockdowns, I wouldn't go near anybody. I was washing my hands like 12 times a day. I didn't go as crazy as my buddy who was microwaving his mail. But then Micah whose son is a cancer survivor, ran into his pediatrician, and the pediatrician's like, don't worry about it. There's nothing to worry about. This thing ain't affecting. So then I said, okay, I'm going to start reading the data. So I stopped watching movies. I stopped watching TV. And all I would do was watch like interviews with doctors, testimony, all this shit. So like the first month of COVID was watching like the briefings and hearing them go like, because I want to know how susceptible I was to this. Mm-hmm. Right. So they go, okay, here's your age bracket. Here's your chances of living. And I went, okay, so I'm 99.8 in my age bracket. And then they went, well, there's these 5 or 6 comorbidities that people have that are dying from this. So I went, okay, which one of those do I have? Oh, I have none of them. So my 99.8 has now gone to what, 99.999? Mm-hmm. Well, everything in life is 99.999. So I was like, what are we doing?
As it relates to what? The getting vaccinated? The
lockdowns, the fucking... people think that I was watching Fox News. I wasn't. If I hear something, if I hear somebody go like, here's the people who are in the hospitals, here's the people who are getting sick, here's the treatment protocols, right? And you're like, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. I said, I can't believe the conspiracy theory. I need to talk to people who are in the trenches. Mm-hmm. So I started talking to nurses, doctors, people that I knew. Tell me what you're seeing. Tell me what's happening. And nothing added up because they were telling me shit that was contrary to what was being downloaded into our brains from mass media. We had a nurse on here at the very beginning of it.
Yeah, Sarah Narrow.
Yeah, she came in and she was like, it's all bullshit. We had a nurse on the podcast saying it's all bullshit. We're not doing the right shit. And then when it's like, there's no treatment for COVID, I'm like, this is a virus. If it's real, it's a virus. So what are the best things that you could do? Get healthy, eat right, take the proper vitamins. And I was watching the news and reading the newspaper every day, waiting for them to go, take a vitamin, go outside, get some vitamin D. I knew in the end of March of 2020 that there was a vitamin D deficiency in most people who were getting COVID. How do I know that? Because there was a big immigration from Africa about 12, 15 years ago. I remember seeing it. You'd have like in the Mediterranean, you'd have like babies washed up on shore because the boats would sink when they're trying to get up. Most of those people settled up in the northern part, like up by Norway, Finland, and shit like that, right? All Africans. What don't Africans have? Vitamin D. They were all dying. And there's no treatment. They're telling you no treatment.
They're all dying of what? COVID?
Whatever that is, yeah. And I was like, wait, okay, so now I need to take vitamin D. And then there was doctors that came out, Zed Zelenko, Jay Bhattacharya, who's, I believe he's like tenured at like Cornell or MIT or Harvard. And him and 3 other tenured doctors or tenured professors who are very, prior to March of 2020, they were the head of their field. Mm-hmm. And they wrote something called the Great Barrington Declaration, which is like, you need focused protection. Let the rest of the world live. Don't lock down. You'll destroy the economy. You will ruin generations of children. Their mental health. They're already at a fragile mental health state in March of 2020. Mm-hmm. I called up a very prominent person in the Scranton School District in April, and I'm like, you need to open the schools. This is going to be terrible. And they were afraid. They wouldn't relay the message. I talked to state representatives. I had face-to-face meetings with state representatives. And they said, look, we know it's all bullshit. But we were told from the governor that if we didn't toe the line, we won't get any of our bills passed. We won't get any funding. We won't get any support from the political parties. And that's when I kind of went, what is this? What is happening?
So the thing that initially started your research was COVID.
The thing that initially went, something's up. And when I'm sorry, man, Dr. Levine, the day before the Secretary of Health for the state of Pennsylvania chose to take his mother out of the nursing home and put him and her in a hotel while everyone else's grandparents, fuck them. Put them. What are you going to do? You have now thrown grenades into no one's in, nobody's out. But all the nurses get to leave and come back. And no one's given anybody vitamin C, zinc, quercetin, magnesium, nothing. And then all the people that went to the hospitals were given palliative care. And then there's don't come in until you turn blue. When has that ever been the way that we practice medicine? Doctors are supposed to, like, we're going to throw everything in the kitchen sink to make sure you don't die.
So why don't we, after all of
this is why I sound crazy, because there's so much shit to say.
That's the difficult thing. So when you speak to people, I don't know what to call it, because to say that someone is a conspiracy theorist,
conspiracy realist,
is inherently derogatory.
Do you know where it comes from? The term
conspiracy theorist?
Yeah, conspiracy theory.
No.
The term etymology, the term conspiracy theory comes from the CIA after the Kennedy assassination. Anybody who wanted to question it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever hear Project Mockingbird?
No.
Okay. After World War II, right? They didn't kill all the Nazis. They took them places. Some of them went to South America. Some of them ended up running NASA. So Project Mockingbird was the infiltration of the CIA into the media of the United States.
Okay.
So I know this sounds crazy, but it's real. So they would infiltrate to sell stories. We want to create a narrative. Gulf of Tonkin. I don't want to go as far as like 9/11 or any of that shit, but like Ruby Ridge, Waco. Like those are things that were all bullshit. Gulf of Tonkin was the reason we got into the Vietnam War, and it never happened. But they said it did. How many tens of thousands of Americans?
So the etymology of conspiracy theory.
The term of the conspiracy is two people deciding to do a thing. That's conspiracy.
Conspiring.
You and I can conspire to go to Chick-fil-A.
Right.
Right. A theory is, I have a theory. Let's use the scientific method and see if we can prove it.
It's a hypothesis.
Correct.
Right.
That's all conspiracy theory is. A conspiracy theorist.
So then may I say it without being
insulting?
Insulting.
Yeah.
Okay. So people that tend to lean towards what we might call a conspiracy theory or conspiracy theories.
Brian, 30 years ago, it wasn't conspiracy theory. It was Monday nights on NBC.
Oh, okay. Leonard Nimoy had a show too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he did.
I love that.
Also,
one.
Leonard Nimoy in the 70s was warning us about global cooling.
All right. So what the current culture regards as a person that leans towards conspiracy theories.
I think, can I interrupt you?
Sure.
I think what the current culture thinks as someone who is a conspiracy theorist is someone who disagrees with what they're supposed to believe.
Okay.
Make sense?
I mean, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
So like if corporate media, traditional media, whatever says a thing and you say, I don't think that's true, you're a conspiracy theorist.
Okay.
Immediately.
So
it's a way to shut down the conversation.
It's tough. It's tough.
It is.
And here's what is tough. People that are into this, I don't want to call it conspiracy theories anymore, but that go down these rabbit holes, have went so far down these rabbit holes and have so much information that lead up to them having certain beliefs that when they have discussions about it,
you sound crazy.
It's not even that you sound crazy. It's just that it's so overwhelming for the person that they're speaking with that you don't even know where to really start. So I know where to start.
Okay. Let's go.
The big picture is where we got to start. So you've done this research. You have this evidence that led you to the belief that there's powers that be that are lying to us in some way.
Yes.
So can you give like a framework of the architecture of why this is happening? Who's doing it? Why are they doing it? And what is like the framework of this all?
Like short answer?
Sure.
Control.
So that's why they want control.
Yes.
Okay. Continue. Who wants control?
The people who have way more power than you.
People that have way more power than us want control.
Yes.
Okay.
Now now you have to think about it this way, right? This is the way I started to explain it to people. If I show you a picture of Yosemite with cloud cover, you'd be like, oh, I guess that tells a story. But if I show you a time lapse of the clouds moving over the mountains, going through the valley. It tells a different story. It tells a more precise story on a time lapse. We have to stop looking at history and the way the world is understood as like the last 40 years or the last 100 years or the last since 1776. History is on a long time lapse.
Sure.
And when you watch the whole thing, you can see the fuckery. And it doesn't change.
Okay. So why don't we start with, well, where do you feel it's appropriate to start?
Well, first there was dinosaurs, and then there was oil.
Was there dinosaurs?
But it's like you're saying that you get to see the patterns dating all the way back to
you hear people,
the American Revolution. So
prior.
This is an example of like, where do we even go from here?
Okay,
give me an outline of who are these people that are. People say it's the elites or people that are more powerful than us.
Yeah,
that desire control.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So tell me more. What, like,
okay, let me explain it to you in a humanist point of view, right? So I believe that we are all individual creatures who the experience of life should be different for all of us, and it should be without manipulation, coercion, or persuasion, right?
Okay.
I think our lives should be that way.
Manipulation, coercion, or persuasion.
Right.
Persuasion too?
What?
Okay, go ahead.
You know what I mean?
All right.
Like somebody who's gonna be like, no, you have to like that girl. She's totally fucking fraud.
Okay.
We as human beings, I look at it this way, right? So I started to look at like the Constitution. I started to look at like, what does it mean? What's the Declaration of Independence? What were these guys saying? What were they fighting? Like, why is America America? Why are we a country? What does that mean? Right? I believe that the forefathers were trying to, not the forefathers, because who gives a shit, right? These are just a bunch of people who are like, I don't want anybody telling me what to think, how I should believe, who I should love,
right?
What things are appropriate or not appropriate.
Well, I agree with everything, but you got to be careful with that last one. But go ahead.
As long as you're not hurting anybody and you're not ruining property, inappropriate's inappropriate. See what I mean?
Okay.
So that's the way I looked at it, right? So why is the First Amendment the First Amendment? Freedom of speech, right? Why is freedom of speech and freedom of the press?
But go back. I'm going to try to keep bringing it back to the original point.
Dude, it's hard because But
it's all right. As long as just give me the ability to do it. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
We still need to lay out the framework on who is screwing with us.
Okay, so today,
yeah.
If you think about like, let's say the Middle Ages.
Can we start? Just tell me who's screwing with us right now.
So the problem is like, you don't really know.
Okay. We don't know.
Like, so somebody said to me one day, they said, who's the richest man on earth? If I asked you that question, who would you think it was?
Probably Elon Musk.
That's only because they want you to know that, or he wants to be known. There are people more wealthier than him in this world.
Substantially
wealthier. They just don't let you know about it.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. Because if Elon's the wealthiest man in the world, wealth gives you power. He should have absolute power. And it doesn't seem like he's very powerful when they try to go at him.
Okay. So we don't know.
Here's what the banks.
The banks
are a big problem, right?
Okay.
Ask yourself this question. Why are there three sovereign, basically autonomous zones in the world, right? One of them is the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. It is not in the United States of America. It's its own thing. That's why Congress gets to tell the budget and what the city gets to do, right? It's the only place in the country that Congress has a say over is the budget of Washington, the city, the mayor's budget, right? The other place is the City of London. The City of London is totally autonomous. It's not in England. It has its own thing. And Rome, Vatican City, is not part of Italy. It's its own thing.
So not just Rome, but Vatican City.
Not Rome, Vatican City.
Okay.
Vatican City specifically.
So the Vatican, London, and DC.
Right.
I already see the architecture for what you're building out here.
So the way that a lot of weird people look at it, like me, is it's not about countries. It's about power and control. It's always been. The financial sector is in London. The army, the control of the army is in DC. and the minds of the people is in Vatican City. So all the banks control how do you pay for a war? It's not just like, oh, I have, a couple shekels, I'm going to start a war. You got to take out loans. The master of coin has to give you money.
Okay. So it's the church, London.
The church, the banks, and the military. Okay.
So it's the church, the banks in London, and the military in the United States.
Yep.
Controlled by Congress.
No.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. There are those that think that the Pentagon is not owned by the country, that it's owned by a family.
What family?
I don't want to say it.
That doesn't help us much, does it?
Yeah. Because it gets
Are those the people that wrote you the letter?
Not the one that owns it is in that name, is in those names. Cologne. It's like Cologne or Cologne or something like that. Like there's like 7 or 8 families that have been generational for millennia. And they're still in charge of everything.
So
like dynasties.
There's 7 or 8 dynasties that conspire with one another in just a general sense, not in a I'm making fun of you sense, that control and dictate the ebb and flow of what do they control?
Everything. So think about the World Economic Forum, right? Klaus Schwab. Look into the history of Klaus Schwab. Who was his dad, right? Who's his dad's dad, his grandfather, right? What did they believe in? What were they a part of? Who are the people that go to these places? Why do they say to you, like, we need to cut back on our carbon, but there's going to be 800 fucking jets going to Davos? You know what I mean?
Okay.
Where it's like, don't be a hypocrite, right?
Okay.
So there's connections all over the place.
All right. So
and I know I sound crazy.
No, it's okay. So we want these people. So these people already have control.
Yeah.
So they already have it.
Yeah. The only place in the world that's why they called America the shining, what was it, shining city on the hill?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was the first time in history, as far as we know, that it wasn't a monarchy. It wasn't an authoritarian.
Okay.
It wasn't oppressive. It was supposed to be a government that was for the people, by the people, and equal under the law.
So
right?
They're pissed that they don't have us by the balls quite as much as everyone else.
They can't. The only place left that makes sure that the whole world doesn't fall into like some dystopia is the United States of America.
So they have control over everything but the United States of America?
The people of the United States of America.
They have the control over everything but the people of the United States of America.
But they still try to control you.
So we're kind of their last frontier.
I think that's why they call America the grand experiment. Because no one else has tried it before. And no one has been successful at it.
All right. So they want to control us how? Not how, but what will they get out of controlling us?
Well, so I'll say it this way. So in America, it's basically one of the first places that you can own property.
Okay.
Right? And then all of a sudden you get taxed on your property that you own. And if you don't pay your taxes, they take your property from you. So do you own your property?
No, it's a rental agreement.
Right. How about your house? You pay for your fucking house?
Mm-hmm.
You're paying taxes on that too.
Right.
It's like everything, and they hide all these things for taxes. Before 1913, I believe it was 1913, before the Federal Reserve, right?
So they've already achieved it.
Look on it on the time lapse. Yes.
So they have already achieved control, and it seems like it's control of assets?
It's everything. So in other words, like, can you think of industry, right? You hear somebody like, oh, they cornered the potato market, right? It's the same thing, but bigger, right? Okay. So think about, like, for instance, right? At the beginning of the dawn of the car, right? There was about 400 or 500 car companies who manufactured vehicles in the United States. Now there's only about 4 or 5. Tesla's the first one to come along in 80 years that's been successful, which means that they were all owned or gobbled up by the big 4, right? So when you have those big car companies, they own everything. They get to set, here's...
Are you using this as an analogy
example
for the families, or is this
as an example for like, you corner it, right?
Okay. So
the two biggest scary, did you ever hear BlackRock?
Sure.
Vanguard?
Sure.
They have what, 33 trillion in assets?
Oh yeah.
They own everything. Mm-hmm. When you look at their books, who they are, and they have sway over everything. That's ESG, that's DEI, it's all that stuff. And all it does is try to manipulate you and try to make you think differently, right? So what's it? It's environmental, social, governmental, that's ESG.
Yeah.
Right? So you're a good steward of the environment. Are you a good person socially? And do you trust your government? Those are the criteria for you to get a good ESG score to make you look like a good business. So those goofy control things are there to manipulate you and force you into conforming to this way.
All right. So they desire control over multiple things, from what I'm gathering.
Mostly it's the people. However they can get in there.
So they want control of our assets, which presumably...
No, they don't want you to have assets.
They want to control. They want control over what we think is ours.
The illusion of
assets. Right. So like Klaus Schwab says, you will own nothing and you will be happy.
Okay. So they want us to be in an eternal rental agreement with them.
Dependent.
Okay. I would say dependent actually is too nice to them the way you're describing it.
Well, I'm trying to make it palatable.
Well, it's like... Yeah. We're eternally, they're eternally our landlords. If we don't pay our property tax, they take it back.
Yep.
Okay. I agree with that.
Yep.
Okay. So they want control of assets, presumably, meaning your stock account, your property, your, what else? The money in your checking account.
Central bank digital currency.
Okay. So they want control of assets. They also want control over your brain.
That's the one that scares me the most.
They want control over your brain for what?
Because it's easier to have people agree to do something than to force them to.
So they want to control your brain to then get us to do what?
Useless eaters, man. We create products. Think about it, man. Think about life in America prior to.
But go ahead, just finish. You don't have to take it back. Just speak forthright right now.
Okay, say that question again so I get it right.
They want to control our brain for what? Right now.
I can think of like 8,000 things, but let me pick a good one.
Pick like 2.
Because if you agree, you don't resist.
Okay, so ease.
Correct.
Okay.
And the ones who don't, they'll get rid of.
So that is still not answering the question.
I honestly, I think...
Go ahead.
It's like a flock mentality, I think. It's kind of where we all start to... If we're all kind of thinking on the same level, and they know how to...
Think about a cult. Everybody thinks the same thing. How easy is it to manage the cult?
It's to get everybody in the same mind frame that they know how to control. To make them that they're worker bees.
That makes more sense.
Okay, Dan is my interpreter.
So worker bees. So are they doing this to exploit labor? Because that would answer the question.
Sure. I don't think they look at us as human beings.
We're like the tractor.
So
they look at us as goats in the field, fucking doing what goats do, or horses plowing, or you know what I mean?
Okay. All right. So they are manipulating us so we can be easy labor to just do things to continue the economy, where there are tenants in a landlord-tenant situation.
And they want to reduce the population from 8 billion people down to about 800 million.
I'm not going to even start on that. But
that's part of what they say.
Okay. They.
Hey, they wrote me the letter. I'm just referring to them.
So here is how I interpret everything that you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Almost everything that you're describing, for the most part, just sounds like
lunacy,
capitalism, and a very efficient system.
I don't. So when.
Well, here, let me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Let me articulate.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Sure, we live in an economy.
Yeah.
Where people put forth labor, whether it's the form of a good or creating a good or a service, and they get compensated for that and that keeps the economic machine going. Okay. I could understand why us just being placid and working and driving the economy forward is of benefit to the extraordinarily wealthy that can control various very big industrial things within the economy. But I also view it as beneficial to us. I think that to a certain extent, this is just a very good, well-run, efficient system. Not perfect, because that's too much.
There's no such thing as a perfect system.
No such thing as a perfect system. But we've created a system, at least in the United States, where, you know, you can work kind of some job. You can work at like Sheets. Mm-hmm. Your wife can work at Boscov's.
Sure.
You make like $60K. Mm-hmm. You get to have barbecues on the weekends.
But is that what life is? Is that what life's supposed to be?
It's not your decision to make.
I understand that, but that's what we're told. That's what life's supposed to be.
It is the life that people are leaning towards. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it anymore.
They don't have a choice. They have to live that life.
What's the other option?
What's the option? You're gonna go homestead? Nobody knows how to do that.
Sure.
If everyone was taught how to homestead, would there be an economy?
It is.
You see what I'm saying? Where it's like you don't have a choice. It's like, oh, you have to be a lawyer. You got to be a doctor. You got to be a fabricator. Or
it's not that you don't have a choice because they're eliminating the choice. It's you don't have a choice because we don't want to pick any other thing. You could go homestead right now, but if I have an option to just kind of stand behind a cash register at Sheets, hold on, and my wife can, you know, arrange shirts at Boscov's, and I can make $60K and eat hot dogs and send my kid to school and get some type of car and a flat screen TV, I'm going to pick that because that requires less effort on my part than homesteading.
Half of those things seem like pleasures, though.
Sure, because we like pleasure.
That's dangerous, too.
Of course it is, but that's what we're doing. And since we have a certain degree of freedom, people with their freedom are choosing to pursue a life of pleasure.
So if I made $100, right? Now you understand money,
yes.
Right? Do you understand taxes?
Yes.
Okay. So if I made $100,
right,
at the end of it, how much money do I have left when I pay the government, federal, state, and local, right?
Yeah.
Right?
I know it so well that it's...
so how much out of that $100, and then let's say I want to go buy groceries, I want to get gas, I want to pay my utilities,
I
want to pay my cable bill.
You'll have less.
So at the end of the day...
You'll either have all of it or less, depending on how many
less than 100
you have.
I'm just saying 100 out of $100, how much of that goes for necessities that are taxed, and how much taxes out of that $100?
It depends. So if you're,
I know it depends on like the choices you make after you pay your taxes.
If you make less than $12,500, I think you get to keep every single red cent of that. None of that is going federal. Then you're completely.
But don't you think that incentivizes people to not do better?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
How many people have you heard? It's like, yeah, but if I get the raise, I go into a higher tax bracket, and then
people that are teetering on the edge of poverty, perhaps, that have a whole bunch of different government subsidies that will go away. But
so my taxes are paying for people to not be incentivized to do better, for them to pay more taxes.
All right, here's how I'm going to lay this out, dude. You ready? Here's how I see it.
Okay.
And I didn't think I would get into it. Well, you know, I'm glad we're going to get into it to this level. There's a gentleman at the University of Scranton whose entire research is ants. Mm-hmm. I've never had a more fascinating conversation with somebody as it relates to like this social structure.
They have an amazing social structure, ants do.
Than this guy that studies ants. And I wish I can remember his name to cite him and give him credit, but I don't.
Can we call him Ant-Man?
Ant-Man. So I asked him.
I like how I look at you for approval for everything I do. Yeah.
You look that up on the University of Scranton. Type in University of Scranton Ant Professor. And so we can credit
not
this guy.
AUNT.
Ant Professor. Yeah. So I was having a conversation with him and I was like, hey, what do you do? I never really spoke to him before. He's like, I'm a biologist and I do research on ant colonies. And I said, ants, that's interesting. And he's like, yeah, I have all different breeds of ants and I just raise them and I observe them. And I was like, why ants? And he said, there's an increasing body of research that studies ants because out of all of the animals that exist in the world, human beings arrange themselves more closely to ants and wasps and bees, which are basically ants with wings in hives rather than in dirt.
Thanks, Bri.
Yeah, for those of you out there that don't know wasps,
they're just basically ants with wings.
Just think of an ant with wings, and you got a wasp. Yeah. So
that's an asshole.
Wasps are assholes
with the stinger up its asshole to get you. So I was like, he's like, so basically, a lot of people will be like, humans, we're like a dog pack, and it's not true. Dog packs are going like packs of like 6. Humans go in packs of like 9,772 or 75,000 plus in the city of Scranton, millions in the city of New York, hundreds of millions scattered throughout the United States, and many, many billions scattered throughout the entire planet. So we're not like dogs. We're like ants. Okay. And he observes these ant colonies, and he's observing them to see how do they run their goddamn colony so efficiently to the point where they're a prehistoric creature that is still doing exactly what they did all the way back to the Paleolithic age, and if not even further back till now, and they're still here. Dodo birds, they're gone. Woolly mammoths, they're gone. Ants, they're still doing exactly what ants did billions of years. And he said that the reason they're still here is because they've arranged themselves in this hierarchy where basically 10% of the ants will go out and take risks on behalf of the colony. These are the ants that when you're in your house, you see them crawling around, rummaging through your stuff.
We're trying to find stuff for the hive.
Trying to find stuff for the hive, exactly.
Yeah.
Another 10% stay in the hive for the upkeep of the hive. If there's a lot of babies, they make the hive bigger. If the queen has too many eggs in her little area, they move them to another area. They hang out, they help out, right? And I go, oh, cool. So that's 20. I go, what about the 80%? And he goes, they do nothing.
No shit.
I go, come on. I'm all, Republican, efficient dude, liberty, independence, and justice for all. And I go, nothing? And he goes, they do nothing. And I go, what does ant nothing look like?
Yeah.
He goes, nothing. He's like, they'll go in a tunnel and then they'll come out and they'll walk around a little bit. And then they'll go and they'll like rub antennas with some other ant that does nothing. And then they'll go back in a tunnel. And then they'll eat some of the stuff that the 10% brings in. And if they need some more room, the other 10% will build out their tunnel a little bit more and they'll live in that. And they do nothing. And I go, this is so fucked up.
Yeah.
I go, that 10% is working their ass off, risking getting stepped on. The other 10% is wiping their ass, building out their colonies, trying to make their lives more comfortable. And this 80% is just aimlessly walking around doing nothing. That's unjust. And he goes, Brian, they're ants. You fucking idiot. They don't know about justice, right?
Right.
Because they do what's efficient because they want to live. And I go, so how does that allude to anything relating to mankind? And he goes, it basically laps over perfectly for how society arranges itself, where about 10% of our population is of the sorts where they're willing to take a certain amount of risk in order to gain a lot.
Yeah.
Right. Another 10% tries to upkeep things. They might work in medicine. They might be teachers. They might be social workers. They might lay, concrete down and make roads bigger and fix bridges, right? And then 80% do nothing. They work dead-end jobs. They hang out, relax, have sex, have a whole bunch of babies, eat Cheetos, watch porn.
What would ant porn look like, Dan?
It'd be on small film.
They're tiny, tiny little TVs or phones.
Remember those things we had to look through when we were kids?
Oh,
they were on the keychain.
Yeah. You had your,
that's how we look at ant porn.
Yeah.
They hang out with their other ant friends that are doing nothing. They talk about how fucked up the 10% is because they have all the money and they're controlling everything.
Yeah, sure.
Right? And then I ask him, why? Why does it work? Why does it work that 80% could do nothing and benefit off of the efforts of the 20%? And he says, you never want to see a time where you have to engage the 80%. You never want to see a time where you need to tap into that 80% because it's never for good reasons. And I was like, well, give me an example. He goes, let's say you pour a whole bunch of water down the colony and the majority of the ants die and there's only a little bit left of that 80%. It's their responsibility to go build a totally new colony, ascribing to kind of the culture of that colony prior to the catastrophe. If you were to do that within humanity, it might be a war. It might be famine. It might be a pandemic where it just wipes out, let's say, 30% of the U.S. population. But we like being U.S. citizens and we want other people to step up and rebuild the United States after some terrible shit happens. So there's an incentive for us to work, to build, even though there's this massive population that are just kind of chilling. Because if one day Russia rolls in here or North Korea rolls in here and they try to start blasting us, all of these people that are just hanging out, not doing much of anything, they're going to back you up. They're going to protect you because now we have more countrymen than them. So it sucks because nothing really bad has happened where we need to have these well-fed, super relaxed 80% save our ass. Mm-hmm. But in a way, thank God we don't. Thank God we don't need to engage the entirety of this population. So everything that you're describing, I think you're right, but I don't think it's malicious intent. I think that it's literally just, it has to be this way for the colony to run well.
I think you're comparing ants and people.
Yeah.
It's apples and oranges. I don't think ants don't write poetry. Ants don't get sad when they break up with their girlfriend.
Okay.
Ants don't take pharmaceuticals. Ants don't have PTSD. See what I'm saying? There's too many complexities. Like the human brain is the human experience is a very complex one.
So why is that significant within the context of the organization of society?
Because
you're right.
Because emotionally you make different decisions.
So why does that? That's true.
Ants do it out of necessity. Most human beings make their decisions based off emotion.
If anything, that just makes us less efficient.
I agree. So why wouldn't we encourage people to see? Also in that example, you're assuming that the 10% who are in charge and do everything aren't doing it maliciously, that they have honorable intent, because what their whole
they don't. It's not.
Well, it's ants. I'm talking about ants.
No. Oh, you're talking about the ants.
Yeah, they're not doing it. There is no maliciousness.
It's about survival.
It's about survival.
Look, you're right. So you're talking about the people now, the 10% people, the elites, right?
I don't even think it's 10%. I think it's smaller.
It probably is, right?
Yeah.
So whatever the ratio is, perhaps they have malicious intent.
Yeah.
Right. There's this idea. Okay. It's not your place to judge the intents of others. And I'm going to give you.
It's not my place to judge.
It's not your place to judge the.
Oh, no, I can't. I can judge the actions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's not your place to judge the intents of others. And there's this exercise that.
But if they say their intent, what am I supposed to do?
Whatever. Right. So here,
Do I believe people when they say words?
Let's do this together. Let's do a little experiment.
Fun.
Okay.
Let's have fun.
So
if you want, try to keep that at like your chin.
At my chin.
Yeah. You want to keep it like aimed at your chin. I just want to make sure that we're getting every beautiful word that you say.
Okay.
Not on your chin.
Yeah.
Not in my chin either.
Yeah. It's kind of like within a couple inches, just like from. You can hear it when you move like that a little bit.
So let's say you lived in a neighborhood and you had a next door neighbor that you knew loved you,
mm-hmm.
and another next door neighbor that was an absolute dick to you.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say the neighbor that you knew loved you hit the lottery and bought you a car because he had so much that he just bought everyone a car on your block, would you thank him? He loves you.
I wouldn't take it.
Let's just say, or he just gave you some money. Let's just say you took it and you accepted the nice gesture. Would you thank him?
Yeah, but if I accept it, I owe him something. I don't want to do that.
For the sake of this exercise.
For the sake of the argument, okay, I take that.
Let's say he made you a cake, whatever, right? You know,
You're so righteous on your opinion.
You know what I mean?
I'm like,
I won't take it. I'll give it back. I'm Mark.
He gave you some gift.
Thanks for this baby. Take it back.
That you can't give back.
A pizza. The guy gives you a fucking pizza.
But here's the thing. Also, at the same time, somebody gives you a kindness. Shame on you for rejecting it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I'm with you.
So the guy likes you.
Yeah.
You get someone to do all your landscaping while you're away on vacation. He drops $10,000 to put trees, and your house is now a beautiful paradise. You can't undo it. The trees are planted. The grass is mowed. Do you thank him?
Of course.
Of course. And you know he likes you.
Yeah.
Now, let's say the same exact shit happened with the neighbor that you know hates you.
Yeah.
You know he hates you. He hits the lottery. And then he says, you go away on vacation, and he does all the yard work, plants beautiful trees. You know he hates you, but he got you a gift. When you come back, do you thank him, knowing that he hates you?
Yes.
You still thank him. Why?
Because he did a kindness.
Because he did something that was of benefit to you.
And I'd really question why we hate each other.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So you actually know that man's intent. And as long as he did something that benefited you, you would still go out of your way to thank him.
Yeah.
In circumstances where we don't even know the intent of the elites, we don't even know the intent of the top 1%. We hate them and we don't even know them, number one. And number two, all we see is their effects. So these people will make cars, steel, medicine, trains, airplanes. So we see.
Well, they don't make them.
They organize the institution that makes them, right?
It's not like Tim Cook's out there making iPhones.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but they're the overseers of it. If shit goes bad,
overseers. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Uh-huh.
That should have been part of the day.
Yeah. Us overseers don't approve of your.
So they do those things. We see the effects. We benefit from the effects. We shouldn't, at the very least, we might not want to thank them, but at the very least, we shouldn't assume their intent.
So here's what I think, right? I don't believe. I started to understand it better when I started to understand it locally.
Okay.
So because I look, here's the best way to explain it, right? I once saw a way for somebody, and I see things in my mind. That's how I rationalize it.
Okay.
So like that's how I see it in my mind. It's not like I visualize the circumstances. So I started to look at it locally because at the beginning of this whole thing, I couldn't understand. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like everything that I know would not be true. If I concede to this one thing, it puts everything else in doubt. Right. And I started to look at it locally, which made me understand it. And I'm just gonna tell you a quick thing about like how I look at things and to simplify it. I once saw somebody take like the federal budget and break it down to a household income, right? So you don't have to look at trillions of dollars. You don't have to look at billions of dollars. You don't have to look at all this shit, right? So it's like you got to pay X, you got to pay this. Here's your income, single income, dual income, your expenses, blah, blah, blah. And then they said, okay, if the government ran like this home would be foreclosed on.
They would be severely in debt.
Correct.
Right.
So when you're in debt, you're a slave because you can't escape it.
Ooh,
you're not free.
Now we're going to start talking about fiat currency.
I'm not. No,
I know you wanted to.
So I took that way of looking at it, right? As what would you call that? Like this is to this, size? As that is to that. What are those
transitive property of inequality?
I don't know what the fuck that means,
Brian. B equals C, therefore A equals
No.
C.
It's like duck is to bird as fish or whale is to fish or like whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's wrong.
I know it is. But I think everyone got what I was saying.
Yep.
So I used that way of thinking to try to understand it, right? So I was like, okay, we have local people who are in power. We have local people who are wealthy. We have all the things that you described from the ant farm are local.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, if we added commas and zeros to that, is it any different? And it's not. It's still the same people doing the same shit. Like when you hear people going like, you know, in every profession, there's shitty people. There's shitty plumbers. There's corrupt plumbers. There's, you know, all that shit is still the same thing. So I had to look at it through the lens of local to understand it, because I knew in my life, oh, this person can get shit done here locally.
Right.
Oh, that person does this shit politically. And if you're friends with that person, they'll do that. And then I was like, but is that the right thing to do? Well, no, it's not the right thing to do. It's the thing that they're doing to help somebody out, which to me is corruption. Right. So in other words, if it's not fair for everybody and somebody's getting, you know, an extra leg up for something just because they know somebody, that in and of itself is corruption. Now, I'm not saying that like just because you did something corrupt means you're evil. I think you're just a human being. I look at most of the people in charge as basically useful idiots that wholeheartedly believe, and you see this in corporations all the time, right? Team building, you know, how they basically kind of like indoctrinate you into these big corporations where it's like the lace mill over in Scranton, right? The lace mill back in the day, it's like they had the cafeteria, the theater, they had everything, the grocery store,
the bowling alley,
but they had,
I never knew all this.
Yeah. So even like the coal companies around here, right? When coal and anthracite coal was a big thing here, it's like the coal company would own everything, the bars, the shopping markets, the houses. So we have everything that you need. You don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to start up your own business. We'll give you we have the banks. We'll give you the loans for your homes. We'll do all this stuff. That's how the coal industry used to work around here. So now you're basically indebted to the coal company. And I look at
reliant on them. You're not indebted per se.
Well, if you take a loan, you are, but you are absolutely reliant on them. Right? Now, most people don't know how to be self-sufficient. When you think about all the things that you need to survive, and that's what this is about, it's survival. You think
survival.
You think a deer gives a fuck about what's on YouTube right now? No other animal on the planet gives a shit except for us. Because we need bread and circuses to be distracted while everybody fucks around and spends our money foolishly. Because that's all we're doing. What are we working for? You and I work, the blue collar guy, the blue collar lady, the cafeteria worker, the person who works at the fucking dry cleaners, all this shit. They're paying taxes to people, right? And no one says like, okay, on my paycheck, when you take out like sometimes 60%, I have no say in whether or not that's going to go to Ukraine.
It's already accounted for in the system. And here's what I mean by that. I'm going to be
but it shouldn't be. I should have. Don't you think you should have a say in where like your tax money goes?
I mean, yeah.
Because most people don't know what the fuck most people are uneducated on taxes. Most people are uneducated on but probably 98% of shit that they pay for, because if they did know, they'd be like, wait a second, I'm paying roads and bridges taxes. I'm paying fuel taxes. I'm paying this. I'm paying that. It's all supposed to go to these things, and all these things aren't getting better. I'll give you, for instance, school board, right? I ran for school board, right? Taxes go up. How high have they gone up in the last 30 years? Don't know. But here's what I do know. Education's getting worse.
You, Mark, are in the 10% of people that give a shit about this.
Right. I agree with you. I agree.
I am in the 10% that just wants to make a shit ton of money. Okay.
Yeah.
I care, but I like 15% care. I 85% want to make money. It might be the flip.
Do you know what money means though? To me, freedom.
Right.
Yeah. You will get freedom. Like you are, I think you are way more free than I am.
The 80% is never going to give a shit. You could do cartwheels and hold up signs and do very interesting educational YouTube videos. And the only people that are going to watch those videos are the 10% of people that already were interested in that shit anyway.
As a spokesman of the 80%, I think we'd watch some of these podcasts, though.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. I see. This is like, it boils down. Like, I don't see Democrat, Republican. I don't see race. I don't see any of that stuff. All I see now is good and evil. Like, that's how binary it's become for me. Right.
Good and evil.
Yeah, there are people who are wanting to do good, and there are people who are willing to do, not wanting, but willing to do evil. Like, I tell my wife, right? I say, and I know I speak in riddles, and it's just the only way I understand it because how I visualize it. I tell my wife, most men, if there wasn't like the contract or like all the shit that we grew up with, we want to participate with the opposite sex as much as possible, right? And it comes down to numbers, right? We create 3 million sperm every 2 days. They have an egg a month. You know, it's just sheer numbers, right? I said, I think the idea of love is that I want to do those things, but I choose not to. I have the power over my desires to say no because it's bad. Like, I choose to not do that because I love you so much. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Where it's like, I wanna, you know, you don't see like, I'm gonna say Marissa Miller. Remember Marissa Miller?
I don't.
From Sports Illustrated, like back in she was beautiful. Heidi Klum, right?
Okay.
We all had crushes on Heidi Klum.
Yeah.
If Heidi Klum showed up at your house, if she showed up at your house and she's like, I'm here for you, you'd be like, you want to.
Yes.
But you seem like a guy. I seem like a guy. Dan seems like a guy who would go, there's nothing in the world that I want to do more, but I can't because I love my wife. Do you see what I mean? Where most people are making the emotional response on it to be like the quick fix.
I actually
like
felt
they're
more
corrupted.
anxiety admitting to that than I did contemplating the corruption of the federal government.
That's how you know you're in love.
Yeah.
That's how you know you're in love.
When I was like, the federal government, let me tell you what they're up to. I felt zero anxiety. But when you're like, what if Heidi Klum came up to your door and wanted to have sex with you? I started internally sweating because I'm like, oh my God, my wife is going to be so mad at hearing this. But
that's
because
you can't deny the fact that that's what, like, the reality of it, right? This is where I have a problem with all of this, right? I should be able to say aliens are real. The earth might be flat. I don't know if the universe could be a hologram. I want to be able to say that. Not that I believe it. I want to be able to say that.
No one's ever going to stop
to be able to have
saying it.
I feel like you get looked upon strangely when you say, and here's
going to look upon you strange, but you could say it. Those sounds can leave your throat.
Well, those are just some of the things in the weird world that I believe in, right? And not that I believe in. I entertain the idea. Like either A, it's fun to think about, or B, there's some nugget of like, there's something there.
I'm going to say,
I don't know definitively if any of these things are, and I just use those 3 examples because those are like the most like, those are the 3 ones that you're like, if you say any of that, they're like, oh, you're not real. I
was doing a lot of research into psychology articles about people that are into conspiracy theories.
Dude, how the fuck does the CIA coin a term and now there's an industry of psychology about it?
I don't know.
Because what was a conspiracy theorist before Kennedy? That was just somebody who's like, I have a question.
I could talk on that too, but let me bring this first point up. They were talking about basically like the psychological makeup of people that tend to agree with conspiracy theories. And it reminded me a lot of something my dad used to say to me when I was growing up about when you grow up, Brian, because I was having I wanted to just play video games all the time. I wanted to be part of that 80%. Okay. And he's like, Brian,
it's seductive.
It's so nice. All those nitrates.
Seductive.
What else? Cake.
Amazing.
Heidi Klum
cake
pictures.
The idea of Heidi Klum.
The idea of lottery tickets. Ooh, how exciting. I might win. And then you don't.
It's legalized gambling by the government.
You felt a little rush. I live for that. Right?
Dopamine.
So my dad used to say to me, Brian, you don't have to give all of those things up. And he said to me and my brother, who's much older than me, he goes, inside every man, there's a little boy. And whatever kind of little boy you were, you'll tend to still have those hobbies when you become a man. So if you were a very athletic kid and that's what you were into, you might continue to do athletics when you're a man. If you were artistic, you might continue to do something like that as a hobby or as a career when you're a man, right? If you were very imaginative as a child, when you become a man, you're going to be an imaginative man. And I think a lot of people that tend to like conspiracy theories are people that are always have very active imaginations. And they were probably always imaginative, and that part of their brain never shut off. And they get a rush. They get excitement out of finding all of these little, like they're like the hero.
Wouldn't it be the same as an investigative journalist?
Yes. But
that makes a lot of sense because that was weird.
It doesn't make sense. It does not make sense.
I was always like in the yard with like a baseball bat, pretend I was a samurai or Indiana Jones with the shoelace, like all the time. And I killed that off in myself for like 20 years. But
you didn't. If you are a conspiracy theorist,
it went dormant for a while.
It's an
another word for that.
It's a man. It's an imaginative man. It's the little boy in you that's like, ooh, wouldn't it be so great if I could find the bad guy that makes everything suck? And then when I find him, I can get my samurai sword and hit him in the head, and then I get to be the hero. But it's not one group of orgy psychos. It's like a whole bunch of just people trying to make money, and sometimes they'll lie to you and shit. But I don't
think it's about money.
It's about money and control. It's about like but they're not. It's not like organized. It's just like some dude trying to get money and control, and he does some stuff to try to get your money, and he might lie to you to get control. But it's not like a system. It's just individual occurrences.
So you don't think it's a system?
I don't think.
You don't think there's organized groups that get together that are in positions of power that make decisions that affect the countries they go back to?
Yeah, it's called Congress. It's called
no. That's just
council.
Well, sure, it works there too. Sure.
Yeah.
On the lower levels, that's how you understand. That's how I understood it locally.
I don't think that there's a higher.
So how can you believe it on a local level, but you can't believe it on a higher level?
Because there's like dockets to see the things that they voted on, and
you're talking about Congress. I'm not talking about Congress. Because when we were growing, how old are you?
I'm 37.
Okay, so 36, what do I got? 6 years on him? I don't know.
He's something like that.
Yeah, you're the accountant. He's the fucking financial guy. What were we just talking about? Oh shit!
Why do I think that it can't occur?
Yeah. Why can't it's the same people? Like when you walk around and you meet all these different personalities, and then sometimes like if you sit at home like in bed, maybe you do this, maybe you don't. I don't know. Sometimes when you sit at home, I'm sure you sit at home in bed.
I do.
Okay, but
I lay in it too.
But maybe you think about these things where like I thought about this as a young kid. I said people's personalities basically boil down to like 12, 15 like character traits, and then everything else is like this disproportionate ingredients of all of them.
Okay,
right? So like the jocks, the hippies, the band geeks, like the nerd, like like they fall into like these weird categories. The same thing with like introverts, extroverts, athletic people, shit like that, right? Usually there's like a way of thinking with those groups, or at least that like what so those exist at every level, like those personalities, the insecurities, the drive, the anger, the people who are constantly joyous, like the people that end up being in charge. I mean, imagine, I think that that's what I started to see. Like I said, I stopped watching movies. So what I started to do was, I used to do this when I drank, right? I wouldn't watch the person talking. I would view a conversation from across the room. I wouldn't watch the person talking. I would watch the person listening. You learn way more just by watching a person listen, right? And I started watching all these people, these just anybody. And I just started to figure stuff out from there. And I'm like, okay, I have a hypothesis about this. I need to either prove or disprove that my hypothesis on my assumption is correct. I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong, which I love to do because I think I grow and I learn from that. But all these people locally, that the things that I learned in bars, I was in like the ghettoest of bars, the gangsterest of bars, the fun of bars, clubs, all that stuff, all around the country. And it was like all the people were the same. Like they'd fall into like these little categories that I made in my brain, in my mind.
So tie it in with the elites.
They're just fucking people.
I think the elites are just fucking people.
I think they're all sociopath psychos. My buddy said to me from LA, he goes, there's nobody that I know that has more than $10 million that isn't crazy.
I think that they might have sociopathic tendencies. I don't think they're psychopathic.
I think they're extinctionists.
I don't know what
that scares the hell out of me.
It wouldn't be in their benefit to be extinctionists.
It would be. They want to they want to reduce carbon. Why do they want to reduce carbon?
I don't know.
Do you know what the percentage of the atmosphere is carbon?
Why are they extinctionists?
Because they think that there's too many people on the planet. You hear them talking about it all the time.
Absolutely.
Prince Charles says,
disagree.
You don't think that they want to get rid of people?
No. All data suggests otherwise.
I'm not talking about the data. These people say it.
No, all data would suggest that it's not a good business decision to get rid of people. If I'm the corrupt son of a bitch that makes tobacco products and I'm using titties to trick you into smoking.
Or Joe Camel.
And I'm a sociopath, I want as many people to be around for me to sell these cigarettes to.
See, but you're looking at it from a commerce thing.
Yeah.
It's more than that. It's higher than that. It's bigger than that. You think the king cares about what the fucking industry of like whatever is?
To be clear, I don't know if you've ever articulated what they actually care about. You just keep saying I'm wrong, but you never tell me what they actually care about. You say control, but it's
I don't know them. Like, you know what I mean? Like I haven't sat across from them and be like, why do you hate people?
But you're saying that they want something, but you're not telling me what it is, or even your hypothesis.
Okay, this is where it gets confusing. So it's hard to. I still have a hard time talking about it because it sounds so crazy. Do you know what I mean? Like I have a hard time believing it. Like I it's not like I believe all these like things. I'm open to them though. I'm open to be like more of the things that I'm hearing lean towards that being true, but than they do being false.
Just speak freely.
Take a deep breath and just say the crazy thing that's in your brain.
What is the thing that even if you're wrong, you think they're trying to do if it's not a money motivation?
I think they want to minimize the population to be manageable for what they want. I mean, this is all they talk about. They talk about overpopulation. They talk about how there's too many people on this planet. We don't have enough resources. We don't have enough water.
The colony has gotten too large.
That's what they say.
It's not sustainable anymore.
Okay. So it's a matter of so
that's what they say.
The secret desire is to reduce the population so more resources are available for them.
I wish I could be able to literally be like, read like, question, answer. I wish I could be able to do that. I don't think I have the brain function.
But is that the gist of it?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's why I think that's wrong. Okay. If you were to look economically at what
But the economies don't matter.
Hold on.
Okay.
If you were to look at places that have low populations and places that have huge populations.
Are you looking at countries or just plots of land?
That's an astute point in all circumstances.
Okay.
Local, and you can expand it into a state, region. You can even expand it out to a country.
Okay.
Okay. it is generally the populations. It's generally the places that have high populations that have to support the areas that have low populations. For example, America has a huge population. China has a huge population.
I don't think huge should be used to describe either both of those, because China has over 1.5
massive,
and we have 350.
Okay, we have a huge population.
They have a massive population. China and India have massive populations.
I agree. China, India, and the United States are the bread baskets of the planet. If a rural area in Africa is suffering from starvation or suffering from lack of water,
so like a drought,
whatever,
or no access to clean water,
they go to high population areas that are well run and efficient to get resources for low population areas. If you live in, and we'll make it local. If you live in deep Susquehanna County, where there's low population, you're not going to get the best medical care. You're not going to get the best food. You're not going to get.
Why wouldn't you? Because the food there. Okay. Can we make a quick understand? Can we make a quick agreement on something?
Okay.
Do you think our food is healthy?
What do you mean? Like
grocery store food?
There's probably healthy options and unhealthy options at a grocery store.
The majority of it, I don't believe, is healthy.
It's probably if you went on the edges, there's mostly healthier things. But once you get in that middle,
walk into a grocery store the next time you do, walk in the front door, not like the fruit aisle, and take a selfie. And I want you to go back and look at it. And I want you to tell me what percentage of that do you think is processed?
Okay.
Mass produced food. Right? So do you think our food is healthy?
Yeah.
I don't.
I don't think it's like the top of the line permaculture, organic, raised from Jesus' earth.
Why not be incentivized to have a healthy population? Why give them Skittles?
Because it's expensive and they can't afford it.
They can't afford an apple?
No, they can't even afford the Skittles right now.
Why would the things that are given to us from the planet be the most expensive things for us to get?
The fruits and stuff that we are giving people at the supermarket are from the planet. It's just that they're in a massive industrial farming operation because it's efficient to do it that way to feed this population. And they have to use shitty fertilizers because it heightens the probability that they actually will get fruit that year.
Chemicals kill bugs.
So is it
Yeah.
What do those chemicals do to us when we eat them?
Look, it's a choice between slow cancer die or die that winter from starvation. So most people are going to pick slow. I don't think people make that choice in their head. That choice was made during the Great Depression.
Was it made for them?
Yes, it was made for them because people said to FDR, "Hi, the Great Depression is here. And my baby, my baby just died of malnutrition because there's a dust bowl. Is there anyone out there that can find?"
Doesn't it have anything to do with the stock market collapsing too?
Hold on. Is there anyone out there that can find a more efficient way to heighten the probability that every year we're going to have apples and turnips to eat? And they said, sure, here's some chemical fertilizers. And they said, thanks. Now we have apples and turnips every year, but they're not the perfect apples and turnips. There was a better way to do it, but the better way to do it exposes us once again to the ebbs and flows of nature.
You think if we do it right, we expose ourselves to more dust bowls?
No.
So could that be an anomaly?
I mean, to be honest, the dust bowl was because we were doing it wrong. Yeah.
So what lessons did we learn from that? Chemicals?
We had to make a snap decision. We had to find a way to feed a whole bunch of people really quick. I mean, we're getting better at it now. To your point, I'm a big permaculture. I have chickens.
I know you have a great place up there, man.
So I'm not one of these guys. Like, I'm not putting any fertilizers that are not natural on
you're saying what we're feeding the 80% is crap.
You gotta feed it. They have to eat. They have to eat. And we're getting better at it.
Can't they eat better?
They could if they want to spend more.
See, I look at it.
But that's the problem. Why are we spending more on the food that's good for us? Why are they letting us eat shit food?
Because it's the good food requires more effort and is more expensive.
Because it's enough sustenance to keep a person alive and keep them working.
Well, it's just that it's more expensive to create. Like right now,
tell me that doesn't make sense though.
No, it
doesn't fucking make sense. It doesn't make sense to make Miss Ellie's cookies or cakes. Not what's a good brand? Tasty Cake. It doesn't make any fucking sense to make tasty cakes when we should only be growing fruits, nuts, meats, and that's it. That's all you need. And you need the right ones because each food gives you a certain sort of nutrition. Each food gives you something that your body needs, right? To survive, to stay healthy, to not get sick, to not get COVID, to not get flus.
So it's like you want people to control us, but when they control us, you want them to make decisions that are good for us.
I know. I want them to educate people. They don't educate people on health. They don't educate people on mental health. They don't educate people on the food you eat. Like there's a friend of mine.
Nobody listens to teachers. Okay, like
that's a problem.
You're not going to change it. The 80%.
But they used to. We listen to teachers.
The 80%. They sit down and in health class they say, "Hey, use protection when you have sex and eat fruits and vegetables. Here's the food pyramid," which you're probably going to go off on some FDA.
Well, it's not real.
All right,
the food pyramid's bad.
It's all bad. Yeah. So
I do like bread though.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's bad for you.
Well.
And
I love bread too.
I ate so much bread today, more than I probably ever did in a long time.
Let's talk about bread.
I feel bloated and poopy.
And what were we doing? We were just dicking around the whole time. They were trying
was?
Like me. Like I was. The teacher was telling. I had to learn all this stuff later. But if I
keep talking,
but you were open to learning.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So
if we do try to educate people, but the path of least resistance is called the path of least resistance for a reason, because according to thermodynamics, if there's an easier way to do it that requires less energy, inevitably things will lead in that direction. So
what's okay, keep going. I keep cutting you off. I'm sorry.
So if you're a person that has the option between getting organic apples, regular not organic apples but pesticides, or tasty cakes. Tasty cakes taste better. They're cheaper. And it gives you a ton of calories. So naturally people are going to gravitate towards that, and they do, and that's why they're still here. Now, you're right. It's so messed up that that's what they're doing and that's what they're eating, and it's so not healthy, and they keep making it. But the alternative is some institution that will come in and say, you must abolish tasty cakes because they're poisoning people and they're making us ill and obese. And then the very institution that steps in and says that sounds a lot like the people you're freaked out by anyway.
No. So you think, okay, so maybe that's a
very elitist thing to do.
Maybe that's a misunderstanding, right? So I believe, right? Do you ever hear of informed consent?
Sure.
Okay. I believe that you should have informed consent on the food that you eat.
Okay.
Now they put the nutrition facts on the back, but nobody knows what the fuck.
What do you have to sign something like, "Hi, I'm about to eat tasty cakes"?
No.
I just want to let you know this sucks.
No, that means that you're like, it's like doing the ultimate hot wing. It's like if you die,
like inevitably you're gonna get fucked up from these tasty cakes.
I think it's very important from a young age, right? And this is on a time lapse. I think it's very, very important from a young age to educate children on what the truth is, right? So if you have, I have a friend right now whose daughter gets very, very, very sick when she has red dye number 5. Anything that has red dye number 5 in it, right? Her daughter gets very sick. So now she has to make sure that she looks for everything that has red dye number 5 in it and not give it to her daughter, right? And that made me go like this. Well, what is red dye number 5?
Isn't it like beetle testicles or something?
Keep going through the list. What is this thing? What is that thing? What is this thing? French fries should be potatoes and salt. McDonald's French fries, for some reason, have 18 ingredients. How does that happen? Why? There's preservatives, there's this, there's that. Now, what you eat affects your health, your mental health, your body size, your body shape, all the cancers.
Why I hate this conversation.
I'm happy you're saying you hate it. You want to end this podcast?
No, this is a food conversation, not this whole conversation. So I didn't mean that. It's such a first world thing to complain about.
No, it's not. I think people in foreign countries eat better than Americans.
If they eat.
But we're assuming that they don't, because the only thing they show you is Sally Struthers with kids with fucking flies in their eyes, which is fucking terrible. But we have kids like that in America. Do you know what I mean? We have kids on the fucking street. We have kids who are fucking shooting other kids. We have kids whose mom only gives them fucking sugar drinks, fucking tasty cakes, everything. No one's being told to eat an apple, asparagus, spinach, beets, any of that stuff.
They're being told, but they just don't want to because it doesn't taste like tasty cakes.
It doesn't mean that they don't want to. You know, for a fucking fact that most of these people that go to these grocery stores can't afford the good shit. And when they go, what's the good shit? It's like, oh, the free shit that the earth grows naturally. Why the fuck don't we pay attention to that? We're more focused on like Ring Dings and Doritos and fucking Pepsis and Diet Coke.
It tastes better. It's that simple. It tastes better and it's cheaper.
Dude, some people like the taste of fucking pee, but that doesn't mean we should all drink it. You know what I mean?
But like, what are you going to do? You're going to like go in like,
you say, I'll give you a perfect example, right? I'm going to show you this real quick. So I came across this thing, which is publicly available, which really fucking flabbergasted me that nobody fucking talks about it, right? So we were talking about water before, right? Here is the water test from Lake Scranton.
Oh my God, I looked at this before and it made me want to throw up. Chemicals in there that I don't even know.
Right, so if that makes you want to fucking throw up, why aren't we why don't we advocate more? Because I think what happened is the ship's been destroyed as much as it can be, and it just hasn't sunk yet. And people like me are there going like, we need to fucking fix this before we all die. Right?
I
That's
agree.
Me, right?
And this is why I get scared with conspiracy theories.
So,
okay.
So this isn't a fucking conspiracy theory.
Yes, this is
so
real.
This is called a quality report from the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection.
Listen to this, people. This is good. I mean, this is bad, but
this is Lake Scranton, which services Lackawanna County, which is 134,570 people. So it says, and this is a surface water test. This is not a soil test. This is not a 50 feet down test. This is just a surface water test conducted from 2014 to 2020. 2021 testing is for chemicals in EPA's fourth unregulated contaminant monitoring rule only. There are 14 contaminants that exceed health guidelines, 30 total contaminants. I can't pronounce any of these, but the first one, the effect, causes cancer 145 times more than it should be. Chloroform, 97 times higher than it should be. Hexavalent chromium. Do you remember Aaron Brockovich with Julia Roberts? Mm-hmm. Remember the thing that was poisoning and giving all those people cancer?
Is that what it was?
Hexavalent chromium. Dibromycetic acid, 3.9 times. Dibromychloromethane, 20 times. Dichloroacidic acid again. This one's 79 times. 332 times what it should be. 531 times than it should be. Radium, 2.9 times than it should be. 6.1. Total trihalomethanes, 331 times. Uranium, 2.6 times than it's supposed to be. In any one of those things individually, you would not fucking drink, right? If I gave you this Aquafina and I said, dude, this is natural spring water. I got it. It's full of minerals, everything. But I got a medicine dropper and I put one drop of my piss in it. Would you drink it?
Hell no.
That's what we're doing. We're saying it's okay. I have a moral fundamental problem with that.
This is a good example, and I cannot agree with you more. This is
accept it.
This is a real problem
We have water worse than Flint, Michigan.
This is a real problem, but rather than talk about real problems, we got people in the city of Scranton that want to hang out at barbershops and talk about the Illuminati all day, which is not a real problem. That's a real problem.
But here's when I talk to a lot of these people, you know, the thing that it's very self-defeating for a lot of them, because they're like, what can I do? Right? They know these certain things, right? And they go, I'm helpless. I'm powerless. They're poisoning me. They're poisoning my children. They're poisoning my children's grandparents. They're poisoning my neighbor. And that's when they start going, when people like that start to make those realizations, they go, what the fuck else are they fibbing about? What
you gotta have that cognitive, you gotta take that cognitive energy for things that in the end you go, oh, I don't know, I think they're up to something, like the big question marks about George Soros and the Democrats and all of these things.
That's all real.
All of that. And I agree that we should take all of that cognitive energy and put it towards things, even at a local level. This is the perfect example, Mark. And put it all towards that.
But you can't. There's too many problems. That's where we're at right now.
You just pick one.
There's
like
too
water.
many fires.
This sucks. This water sucks.
And the people who are like George Soros is the fucking devil. What they realize is, like, I'll give you examples, right? So I don't know how much you know about George Soros.
Can I just say one last thing before we get into George Soros? Sure. I think it's a laziness thing. That's what I think it is. I think anytime people go, what am I going to do about it? You could just Google that. What do I do to protest polluted water? And then you read stuff on that. What can I do to purify the drinking water in my community? And there's probably blogs, and there's probably some lady in Michigan that found out some way to do it.
You don't need to Google it. You know what to do. But they don't do it. I watch city council meetings every week.
I don't do it either. I don't want to act like I'm one of the guys that does it.
But isn't that crazy? We don't speak up because we're concerned about our perception. We're concerned about what people are thinking about us, even though we know it's right. We are concerned about what the perception of our peers and our friends and our family and our neighbors is going to be of us. If I'm going to be like, hey, I'm going to go to city council and be like, there is hexavalent chromium in the drinking water from Lake Scranton. Now, up until 10 years ago, Clark Summit, Waverly, all those places had different sources of water. But when the water company buys it, what they do? We're going to shut them down and we're going to send all the water from Lake Scranton. That is what permeates the pipes in Clark Summit, Waverly, Glenburn, Dunmore. These people are getting poisoned all over, right?
So now if I'm going to come Dunmore, the guy next to me, autistic son. The guy behind me, autistic. The girl to the family to the left, autistic daughter. Autism.
Those are heavy metals. That's what causes that.
We're right by the dump. And I'm like, yeah, I this is the stuff that makes sense to me.
It might, but here's the thing: it might not be the dump.
I don't know what it is.
It might be.
But we know that it's
it might be the groundwater. It might be what the fuck is going on. Where's the water coming from?
Whatever.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, are you going to be down? Are you going to drink the water downriver of me pissing in it?
No.
That's what we're doing. And we're concerned about, like, most people are concerned about the perception. I'm concerned. I can't.
That is true. I would say
it's fear.
The perception of people thinking that the earth is flat is probably worse than the perception of people that are concerned that there's whatever the hell in their water.
Hexavalent chromium. So
to
me, I don't care about flat earth.
Whatever.
Look, here's the thing. I care about it if it's true. But I don't care about it as,
if it's true.
I don't care about it as, it's fun to talk about. It's fun to talk about, like, is the moon landing real? Did think of 8,000 things that, like, those types of like UFOs, all that
Atlantis.
Shit. Atlantis is real. The Rishot structure in West Africa, look into it.
Göbekli Tepe.
Göbekli Tepe.
Whatever.
I've found that there's the thing that holds us back.
Yes.
Is fear.
Fear.
That's it. There's nothing else. It's fear. You met Aja, right? When you did the podcast, I asked Aja one day. I said, what do you miss about Ghana? He goes, freedom. I said, what does that mean?
He goes, in your country, you judge each other on everything. The car you drive, the clothes you wear, the haircut you have, the girl you're with, the job you have. He's like, in Africa, we don't care. Are you a good person? That's all we care about. So in our culture, we have been programmed, whether you want to believe it or not, all this is programming. We start off in life as like these blank hard drives. And then by 7 years old, you basically have the program you're going to be that's going to develop your personality. And then everything else is something from there.
It's,
that's the thing I learned from psychedelics was that like, I need to restart my modem and rethink things. Not like crazy. I'm not with a sandwich board on the corner going like, but if I had no fear, maybe I would be, but I wouldn't be the guy screaming with the megaphone. Hey, can I have a conversation with you? You seem like somebody who can have a conversation, because most people don't want to hear it because there's this cognitive dissonance, and there's a bias that they have. What's it called? It's the implicit bias that they have. It's like trying to convince an evangelical Christian that Jesus ain't real.
Never going to happen.
Never going to happen. Now, when you go like this, hey, you know that the water's poison, which is a true statement. No one's going to believe you. You have to show them. You have to say, hey, let's go take the test. I'll take the test right in front of you, but nobody has the time. We're a society who has no time. We have no time to protect ourselves. We have no time to make sure the food that we're eating is fucking healthy, that the air that we're breathing is good, that the soil that we have is good. We don't know. And we trust these people in charge to tell us it's okay. And how many examples in history do I have to tell you where each one of those things, they fucking lied? And my question to everybody now is, how many times do I have to lie to you before you don't believe me? If you and I are good friends, I always tell you the truth, right? What would it take for you to stop believing me? You might say, I think Mark's wrong, but I think he believes what he's saying. He's telling me his truth as he sees it.
I'll give it like 2 strikes.
And all these things that we're supposed to trust have way more than 2, and we don't have personal relationships with them. So you need to become naturally skeptical for them because they earned it.
Yeah.
This is why if they go, hey, this is why I was against the vaccines. This is why I was against the lockdowns.
A natural amount of skepticism towards institutions is a very healthy, good thing.
We have stopped it.
Which is different than going too far into conspiracy theories.
You're using that CIA word again.
Well,
in January of 2020, nobody...
I view it differently.
In January... That's okay.
I view it differently.
That's okay. That's okay.
I think that...
I'm not trying to tell you like, that's that's not... Conspiracy theory isn't my pronoun, Dan. In January 2020, everybody was skeptical of the pharmaceutical industry. Good. And they were skeptical of their government.
Sure.
And now they're not.
I don't know about that.
You convinced 70% of the population to take an experimental vaccine that no one knows is in it. No one knows what is in that thing. There's no way to test. There's no way to say, hey, I'm going to take a blood sample from Brian. You have had the pertussis shot. You have the DTaP. You have had measles. You have had it. There's no way to test for this shit. There's no way to test if you have it, if it was given to you, and it's mandated. A fucking pharmaceutical companies are not institutions that are from the government. They are a fucking business. They are no different than Tasty Cake. They have to constantly make products to generate revenue for the stockholders who want them to generate revenue. That's why it was very concerning to me. And I was called anti-vax. I was called fucking racist. I was called a bigot. I was called all these things.
Called racist for not wanting to get vaccinated?
Dan?
Yeah, he was called a lot of things.
But because of your desire to not get vaccinated?
Yes. And I saw all these things firsthand. So my experience of it is not Dan's. Dan only knows about this firsthand from me. He's witnessed some of it. But I have a unique experience to this. And what I found out was there's a lot of people who've had the same experience as I have, and they're not who you think they are. They are not people who are crazy. They are fucking really reputable business people. They are really reputable doctors. They are really reputable fucking educators, professors. the two most vaccine hesitant groups in the country. Do you know who they were?
No.
College professors and black people. Why? College professors know how to read studies, and black people are fucking smart enough to know that they can't trust their fucking government. And then now, 4 years down the road, everything that I said, everything that I predicted, and it wasn't predictions, it was there. It was in front of us. Read the paper.
It was coming from discussions we were just having like on a nightly basis.
I'm like, read this study. Does this seem, am I reading this right? And he'd look at it and he'd go, you're reading it right. And I'm like, they're fucking lying. They're lying about what's in these fucking things. They're lying about the technology. And anybody who questioned the narrative was persona non grata. And they were considered, the moment you said that you were that I'm not taking that fuck. I went to my fucking general practitioner, my doctor, who's been my doctor for 30 years. I walked in, I had remember I had the chest thing, and it was anxiety. I had a fucking panic attack. I went in and he goes, you get the vaccine? And I said, no. He goes, what are you, a fucking Trumper?
Shit.
That was my doctor. That was my general practitioner. The guy who's had his finger in my asshole. Wow. And his immediate thing was not like, well, what reservations do you have? And I know all the people who think the same way I did, when they went to their doctors, I try to be as non-confrontational as possible. They said every question I asked my doctor, they couldn't answer it. About the efficacy, about the safety, about any of that shit. And I was like, holy fuck. And I knew nurses who were like, they're going to fire me if I don't get the vaccine. I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it. They're like, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, as a human being, the Nuremberg Code, after the atrocities of the Nazi regime, came up with 10 things that you were not allowed to do.
Can I interject?
And we violated all of them, Brian. All of them.
I can understand.
So call me crazy because I was right on the biggest fucking thing that has happened in the last 100 years. I was right about everything. I was right about the mask. I was right about the lockdowns. I was right about the mental health of children. I was right about the fucking vaccines. I was right about fucking all of it. Either I'm Nostradamus or I took the time, because the government, which they don't have the ability to do, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, they violated at least 5 of my fucking rights, or my
as it relates to the vaccine. I'm in an odd position because I see the effects of what you're discussing. I had a very, very close friend of mine unfortunately take his own life in the midst of COVID.
I knew more people that died from suicide during COVID than COVID.
Very close friend of mine.
It broke my heart.
But I had another very close friend that was in good health die of COVID.
I don't think he did.
Holy shit. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, let me ask you a question, right? Do you know how many flu cases there were in the year 2020? Okay, let me ask you this question. On average, how many years or how many people die from the flu? Influenza. There's 5 or 6 strains of influenza.
I don't know.
It's the flu. Take a guess. In America,
75,000.
It's about 65. Like there's a range. So like on the high end, it's like 79. On the low end, it's like 49. Right? Mm-hmm. Do you know how many people are diagnosed with the flu?
No.
50 million per year are diagnosed with the flu. Right? Have you ever heard of somebody that got the flu and weren't treated?
No. Well, yeah. I mean, they send you home and they say drink soup, and
they give you a Z-Pack, or they'll give you like an antibiotic or a steroid, or like, hey, take this or whatever. You know,
a little something.
And you know what you do? You go into your doctor and they put the stethoscope on your heart and on your back so they can hear your lungs. They check your nose, they check your ears, they check your eyes. No one went to a doctor's appointment. No one got the stethoscope on their lungs. No one got looked down their throat. No one was given a medication for anything. The only thing that I heard of that was prescribed to people who got COVID was NyQuil, which they just in the last 6 months took off the shelves because it's non-effective for anything. When have you ever heard?
So what are you alluding to?
I'm alluding to that a lot of the people. Oh, do you know how many flu cases there were in 2020?
Let me guess, like 2.
15. Right? Why would they not treat these people? That's a doctor's job. Your Hippocratic oath said do no harm. When you tell people to stay home till they turn blue and then call 911.
Go back to what you were alluding to.
I'm alluding to something's weird. Why would they do that? Why would doctors do that? Why would they do that for an illness that is supposedly 99.8% survivable, 98% survivable?
I don't think it was collusion in any way or corruption in any way, because there would be too many doctors.
It's not. What most doctors, right? They're part of a healthcare system. Someone signs their paychecks. They're not private. Very few doctors in the United States are private. It's about 30%. 60% have to answer to somebody. That's why when you go to the local hospitals around here and you talk to the doctors, how many patients do they have to see a day?
All right.
So how much time do they have to see a patient? So because Geisinger tells you 5 minutes.
So then their bosses heard from someone higher than them that this has got to get done, and it was a trickle down effect.
They said this is our protocol.
This is all right. Who made the protocol? And when all is said and done, and it boils all the way up to the
CDC, FDA, CDC, and you'd have the American Medical Association, the American Pediatric Association. They were all in cahoots to say, here's the protocol. There is no. When I got COVID, I called my GP, the one who said, call me a Trumper.
Yeah. But I want you to finish this. I wanted to ask you a follow-up question on that.
Well, you want me to finish my thought?
Yeah, go
on it. You have 50 million people in the United States annually who are diagnosed with the flu. And you can't think of an instance where they would call their doctor and their doctor would not see or treat them in some way. Right? In 2019, you got the flu. What would happen? Call your doctor, make an appointment, get a medicine, a prescription, a something.
So you're saying these people died of an untreated influenza?
I'm saying it's not out of the realm of possibility that that's possible.
If it was an untreated influenza, that was a hell of an influenza that was going around that year.
Fear. Nobody going to work. No one getting sunshine. What's the one thing that they tell you to get when you're sick? Go outside. Get some sun. You know what they did? Stay in your home. Don't leave unless absolutely necessary. And also, make sure that you only call us when you're turning blue, which means that your blood oxygen is down to like fucking 70.
Well, it's camera 2. Oh, there it is. Okay, you're good.
Are you following my think about this. Think COVID didn't happen. Imagine COVID didn't happen.
Okay.
All right. And I told you that happened in some country. What would you think?
People aren't being treated for very common illness.
Why? A survivable illness when treated properly.
In that
and then you add the circumstance of lock you in your home. You have food insecurity. You have financial insecurity. You have fear. Think about the elderly. Think about the people who live on a fixed income. Think of the people who live alone. Think about the people who are overweight. Think about the people who aren't getting their fucking cancer treatments. Think about the people who aren't getting any fucking medical diagnosis for anything for 7 months.
The COVID thing.
Fuck
the
COVID.
way I view it, and all of the things that you're saying, and you're pointing out certain things that are great points, and huge oversights and inefficiencies and hypocrisies. Okay. I think what we had to deal with in COVID was...
We didn't have to deal with anything. It's a flu.
It was all manufactured.
Take a vitamin. Yeah, okay. And it came from a lab. It came from a Chinese lab. And don't take my word for it. Take the CIA, the FBI, and the fucking State Department saying that. Don't believe me. Also believe the reporters who were like, yeah, we found case 0 from this lab. Oh, and also, there was a lot of problems with that lab that the State Department had cables back home going like, we're in a fucking problem here.
Wait.
They don't tell you this on TV.
There was like 5 employees or something like that they were able to track their trains back
they
to
found
the lab.
COVID? They found case 0 of COVID?
Yeah, the first person they found.
And then from there, what happened?
You didn't hear about it.
No, I didn't.
No. And do you know what happened? You know what happened the day after it fucking came about?
What?
So the Wuhan Institute of Virology, who is getting grants from the United States government, specifically NIAID and the EcoHealth Alliance, right? You okay? Yeah. So they have to, because of the grants, they have to publicly make available all the things that they're working on for all the other schools across the world who are part of it, right? Whether it's in China or England or the United States or whatever, right? In Australia. Once the shit started hitting in the fan and people started looking to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, they deleted their entire database so no one can find the DNA of that and connect it to something that was manufactured.
It
They deleted
manufactured.
They deleted the entire database. But now they found in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Or is it Chapel Hill, North Carolina or South Carolina? So there's this guy named Ralph Barrick, right? He's been known for decades. He's been involved in virology and research and all this shit, right? He was the one, remember they put a stop to gain of function research?
Mm-mm.
So in the mid-2000s, Obama put a stop to gain of function research.
All right, but go ahead and just speed forward because I'm going to end up getting ADD with this.
I'm sorry.
So they ended up, so this guy found what?
They have the patents. Everything's been traced back over the last 4 years.
They have the patents on what?
The virus.
On the virus?
Yeah, on COVID.
Which one? On COVID?
Yeah, SARS-CoV-2.
And it was what? Manufactured?
Yes,
with
through gain of function research.
What was the intent? Why did they make it?
Because with the pharmaceutical companies do is they start to create fucking viruses. And through those viruses, what they do is they try to create antidotes. So in other words, like, if this gets out, we can make a ton of fucking money.
Okay. So they made a virus to create an antidote.
They look at it as being like, we need to be prepared for this. So we need to get like a medicine ready for when like something like this hits.
Like a really bad virus.
Right. But the problem is when you do gain of function research, what you're doing is you're multiplying it so many fucking times so fast that the evolution of it would take 1,000 years before anything would get like that. And we'd already build the antibodies and have our mRNA would know what to fight when we came to that. So in
they
1,000 years.
created an insanely strong virus in Wuhan, is what you're telling me?
Multiple, yes.
Multiple. And then
they do it all over the world. They're doing it in Ukraine too.
Released. Or some accident happened.
So either it was released on purpose or accidental, but nevertheless, it came from there.
And that is how it began to spread.
Yeah, you know what happened? So the first cases they've traced back to September of 2019. Do you know what was happening in Wuhan, China in late August of 2019?
Uh-huh.
The World Military Games.
Okay. What were the symptoms of that one? That was
I think when those people that worked at the Wuhan lab, I think one of them, I don't think anybody died.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think any of them died. It wasn't in the wet. The wet market was bullshit, right? And then on top of it, all the shit that you were seeing out of China, people collapsing.
And then it wasn't a super bug if nobody died.
It wasn't. It was a flu. At best, it was a flu.
So it was just a stupid little flu that went around.
Yeah. Now, take that. Now, you don't have to believe me. I'm just painting a picture for you, right? These are all true things. So a manufactured. When I got COVID, one of the first things I said to somebody was, "Man, it felt artificial. It didn't feel like a normal sickness. It felt weird." Okay.
Oh, wait. So let's back up for a second, because I was.
Do you want to go back to the?
I was setting you up.
Okay.
You said to me that my buddy didn't die of COVID; he died of a flu. Then an untreated flu.
Yeah.
Then proceeded to tell me an entire plot about how a bug was made in a Wuhan lab that then spread throughout the entire world.
Yeah. So they say.
So,
and the PCR test is the thing that tested to see if anybody had COVID, right?
So then that is illogical.
It's
because
not.
In one
so
breath,
so let me ask
you're saying
let me ask you what happened to your friend. What happened to your friend? What was the series of events?
He ended up.
What
Day one, not sick.
So I trained in judo with him. His name is Bob. And
you don't have to use names or anything like that.
Yeah. So I just want to refer to him as I'm talking through this. So he, we were still attempting to open up my judo club again, and we had an opening date scheduled.
When is this? What time frame?
This was in the spring or the early. It was like the late winter of 2021.
So now we're like a year February. And a half in.
It's about February 2021, maybe late March.
It's almost at least a year in.
Yeah.
Vaccines were already out.
Right.
Yeah.
He was an anti-vaxxer. He didn't get the vaccine.
That's fine.
Okay. Him and his wife had horrible arguments about it. And she's a nurse. And he said, I can't come. I don't think we should open up on such and such a date because I just got the test. I have COVID. We said, all right, no problem. I texted him after a week.
I just got COVID. Is that what he said?
Yep. I just got COVID. I just showed up positive on the test.
Yeah.
I don't want to get everyone sick. In about a week, I sent him a text and he said, in the hospital now, can't talk. And then him and I spoke every day. Good friend of mine. And then I hadn't heard from him in like 4 days. And I sent him a text and he didn't respond. So then I called his brother and I said, what's the story? Where's your, I know he was in the hospital. Is he okay? He goes, he just died. And I said, what happened? And I spoke to his wife and his oxygen levels kept going down. Effectively, they were saying there was just a ton of gunk and fluid building up in his lungs. And they attempted to assist him in his breathing and just nothing.
How'd they do that?
I don't know.
Did they hook him up to a mechanical ventilator?
I'm not sure. I really don't know.
You know what kind of medicines they were giving him?
I don't. And he flatlined and they called his wife and said, come down because I don't think we're going to be able to keep him alive much longer. And she said they went in, she saw him, they were doing CPR on him. And they're like, look, once we stop CPR, he's gone. She's like, just let him go. And he died.
How old?
I think he was like 59, 60. Didn't smoke, didn't even drink alcohol. And he was a martial artist. He was in very good physical shape. Clean diet and no history of heart problems, and died. So that's why when people are like, it's a light flu, I'm like, I've never seen a light flu kill a 60-year-old in good shape that doesn't smoke, doesn't drink.
You've seen a light flu blow by a kid and destroy a 65-year-old. You've seen that before in the past. You've heard of that. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. And here's the other thing. What was one of the medicines they were giving to him? I don't want to have the perception that I'm unempathetic to that, the story you just told. And there's a human being there. And this is what bothers me to my core, right? I don't know Bob, but it breaks my heart that Bob passed away. And I think that Bob passed away because he was treated poorly. I think they gave them medicines, like I said before, palliative care. Do you know what palliative care is? It's end-of-life care.
End-of-life care. That's
when you look at the cocktails of medicine that they were giving people, it was palliative care. Remdesivir, which is one of the medicines that we heard about, which was the only thing approved for COVID, when they were doing the clinical trials in Africa, they stopped it immediately because it killed a third of the people. It was a cancer drug. I don't know how the fuck that got approved, but it did. And they were giving it to people. And then the ventilators, 60% of the people that went on ventilators, you were going to die. Because ventilators are not made for long-term use. It's like a day or two. That's what it's supposed to be. Because what happens is you blow your lungs out. Now, podcasts like 8 or 9 that we do with my buddy Chad, hospital killed him. They blew his lungs out when they put him on the vent. They didn't give him vitamin D. They didn't give him fucking quercetin. They didn't give him zinc. They didn't give him anything. Now, nowhere in any of COVID did you hear anybody go take these vitamins. Now they're telling you, oh yeah, you got to take vitamin D. I never heard some fucking public official. I never heard some public health official come out and say, this is killing a lot of people who have vitamin D deficiencies. Take vitamin D.
There's a certain thing called hindsight bias
But I was saying it at the beginning.
Yeah, this was in hindsight. This is what we were saying.
This is what we were saying
like
at the beginning.
It's like, because we were very open to like, we were both going through like our own like mental breakdowns of like seeing the world for what it is and really kind of coming back into what we are now. And we were both very in tune with the energy of the outside and being like, the sun is healing. These vitamins are good for you. Exercise is good for you. Healthy food is what we need. Everybody is dying and not a single person anywhere is publishing eat healthy, go the fuck outside. And it was driving us insane.
That was never a recommendation ever, knowing that it's the one thing that you didn't have to pay for. You didn't have to pay to go outside. It's the one thing they prevented you from doing. Stay inside, be scared shitless.
I think it's because
and get Uber Eats.
I think it's because they were scared shitless.
I hear you.
I think the whole world was scared shitless.
But who scared them inappropriately?
I think people got scared shitless because a serious virus was going around the planet.
80% of the fucking marketing, 80% of the advertising dollars on CNN, MSNBC, Fox is the pharmaceutical companies. You can't criticize them. Who makes the ventilators?
It was a plot.
I'm not saying.
You are saying it. You're implying
I'm saying there was collusion.
It was a business plan.
I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you this. I've never said this before, right? I know of a certain hospital president around here.
So then narrows it down to like 3 people.
Had a conversation with them. I said, I expressed my feelings. He goes, yeah, we know, but the money's great. The hospital system in America was about to collapse before COVID. They couldn't afford to fucking keep it open. They were going to close hospitals all over the country. You can look into it. Go back and look. The hospital systems in America were failing.
So they called up their buddies in Wuhan.
No, they didn't.
So then what? So
in November of 2019, there was this thing called Agenda 2030. It was oh my God, what the fuck was the name of it? It's been so long I forgot about it.
I forgot.
Event 201. It was called Event 201. It's 4 hours long, run by the UN and everybody, right? It was a pandemic preparedness simulation. Now, this Event 201 is happening. It's online. You can find it. You can watch the whole fucking thing.
Walked me through this before.
Okay.
But for the listeners.
This was going on after they already knew it was happening. After they already knew that there was a lab leak. They did this. It was a pandemic prepared. They brought in all the fucking big players.
So it was prepared
to participate in this.
For what? So Pfizer and Merck.
Merck until COVID Moderna. Moderna before COVID had never brought a successful product to market. Ever.
So.
And Pfizer, can you do me a favor? Can you get on the Google machine and look up what Pfizer was prior to Pfizer? Because it changed its name.
So they said, hey, we need a nice big money boost. Let's poison the world and get them sick. And we will provide them with the vaccine.
Hey, we need military money. Let's go start a war. It's the same fucking shit. It's no different.
So this boils down to a whole bunch of sociopaths got together and collectively decided.
I think clinically they would be diagnosed as psychopaths.
This would be psychopathic.
Yes.
If what you're saying is right.
Don't believe me.
Well, we're never going to be able to know.
I know.
They all collectively agreed to release a virus in the streets of Wuhan.
Like I said, I don't know if it was orchestrated or accidental, but you know how they say never.
You're making it sound orchestrated.
Always take advantage of a fucking tragedy.
You're making it sound very orchestrated, because if it was accidental, they would have to accidentally have all of the other pieces that you just described fall in place ever so perfectly. Therefore, it probably isn't accidental. It's probably orchestrated according to the narrative that you're posing.
I still don't know whether it was on purpose or accidental. What I do know
Which
is
one do you want to believe?
I'd like to believe that we live in a world where people don't do that.
That's what I'd like.
Given those two choices, which one are you leaning more towards?
I believe that it was. Here's the thing. I believe it was accidental because there are thousands of examples of lab leaks all across the world.
Okay. So the source of it is...
Although for everything else to work, it has to be premeditated.
Well, that contradicts it being accidental.
They've tried it before. They've tried to release things and start the fear before.
Because it's like this
SARS 1. That was an example of they tried to fucking scare everybody into it, and all of America and the world went, nah, fuck you.
This machine that you're describing,
and there was no social media.
This machine that you're describing in the healthcare system, where you've got presidents of hospitals saying the money's great, and prior to this we were going to fail, etc., and that there was a mandate from the FDA, etc.
Well, the CDC gave the guidance, and everyone followed the CDC guidance.
Right. And that is a very perfectly orchestrated response to fix like failing hospitals. So then when you dial it back and say, but it was all an accident, it's a contradiction because it's a combination of accident and perfectly orchestrated plot.
It's not.
So it has to be one or the other.
It's not. It's no different than a hunter waiting for the deer to pass through his scopes.
So they took advantage of an accident.
And mRNA technology, the technology of mRNA has been around since the 80s, right?
Okay.
They have never had it be successful, right? There's never been a successful distribution of mRNA. Now, on top of that, you have video of Fauci going like, the only way for people to agree to take this technology, which it is a technology, right, is it has to be dire. It has to be aggressive. You'll never convince people to do it. There has to be something profound that they have to fucking take it. He's on fucking camera saying it in like 2017.
And that's exactly what happened. And then we took it.
We all took it. Well, not me.
Well, we took. Okay, so a lot of people took it.
How did they have the fucking vaccine in like a month?
I don't know.
Actually, I believe Moderna had it like.
Have you ever had like a biologist on this show?
I'd love to.
You got to do that.
But the problem is
you're asking a financial advisor.
No. But I'm not. But Brian,
like talk to me about fiat currencies. I'll talk to you about that all day.
But I think. Look, we all have the ability to critically think, right? We can take a hypothesis or an idea, and we can go, okay, I either need to prove or disprove. By trying to prove this, I can disprove it. By trying to prove this, I can prove it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I tried my best. And this took me months, man. I don't expect you to fucking see what I see in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
it took me months, and it was very traumatic. It was very difficult. Like, how many things did I come to you where I'm like, hey, here's what's going to happen in a few weeks or months?
Yeah. And we talk about it and kind of plan it out and say, okay, that makes, because I would sit there. I mean, I'll listen to it all bullshit and decide, for myself. And the end of the day,
have I ever forced you to do anything or demanded you do anything?
No, I enjoy listening to it, and then I take it home and I think about it, and there's things that I've come around to longer, but there's a lot of stuff that comes up and just like, hey, look at this, and it's a logical thought process coming to these things that like it's not coming from a crazy. It starts to line up too much, and then when they come true in the end, you're just like, oh fuck, we were right.
Like this one thing alone is not convincing. But these 12 fucking things that went together is like, something's real weird.
Well, what's the commercial that they tell you when you get COVID now? What's the product they are now selling on TV?
Paxlovid?
And what is that?
It's basically ivermectin, but it creates everybody that takes Paxlovid gets something called a rebound infection.
Can I bring up a related but unrelated point to
I keep losing
this path here?
Well, do you want to put a pin in that? I'm going to change cameras so we don't lose you anymore. Is that okay?
Yeah.
We'll take like a 5 so I can just set this camera up.
How long do we normally do these for?
We can do it as long as you want, man. I've prepared till midnight for you.
I got a song if you guys want to hear it on the way out.
No. We're going to cut this.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll save the song for later. Don't look.
Does that look okay?
Yeah.
One thing, one thought I had on the way here.
Yeah, he looks okay.
Yeah.
Regarding the whole COVID catastrophe that we're discussing here.
Why did you think? Were you like, I know it's going to come up because he's crazy.
I was like, conspiracy. We're going to talk about COVID a lot. So I said, this is going to be a bone of contention for our generation forever. And it's going to end up being one of those things that when we're like, you're like 92 and I'm like 87 and like, it's like Christmas and we're all hanging out.
I think we're going to know sooner.
Hold on. I'm building up to a joke here.
You're not funny, Brian.
It's like
you're staying in your lane.
Yeah.
it's like people that are like 90 something years old and you're like, hey, grandpa, Italian grandpa, what exactly was the issue between the Italians and the Irish when they were growing up?
Right.
And then the whole table's like, just don't bring it up. Don't bring it up. Why bring up stuff that it's over? Just don't bring it up anymore.
You can't.
Right?
You have to talk about it.
And then it's like, come on, grandpa, what was the issue between the Italians? What do you think of the Irish? And then he'll go off on the goddamn Irish and vice versa.
And
right?
the Italians will do it too. Yeah,
and the Irish will do it back to the Italian. This is going to be the bone of contention for us when we're old. We're going to be like 89 years old. They're going to be like, grandpa, wasn't there a whole debate about whether or not to get vaccinated back in the 2020s about COVID? And they'll be like, don't bring it up. Don't bring it up. Don't bring it up.
I think, and this is where, first of all, I'm sorry I had to change the camera, and I know that you have to leave soon, and I want to say thank you, and I would love to continue this, whenever you're ready.
If it's about COVID, you need like a biologist.
I don't think so.
Virologist. No, you do.
Yeah, but the things that I'm saying have nothing to do with fucking science.
They totally do.
I'm like, why? I said it doesn't make sense to not treat people. That's insane to me.
You'll be like, I
don't need to be a doctor to do that.
Like if you had a virologist here, you're like, it's a flu. And they'll be like, well, here's the thing: the synapses on the influenza are different.
Okay, hold on. You go out to your car in the morning and you have a flat tire. Do you say, I need to call a mechanic right now?
I just fix it myself.
Okay, so if I say I'm sick, do I need to go see a doctor right now?
I mean, it depends on what kind of sick.
That's what I'm saying. The doctors,
like if I have sniffles, no.
So if I can't breathe,
yes.
Here's the thing with the COVID thing, right? The COVID thing, I'm just saying common sense stuff. It has nothing to do with the science shit that I know, right? And I am not versed enough to sit like I'd have to prepare to sit with some sort of biologist, right? I'm talking about the common sense stuff that didn't make fucking sense. To not treat people who are sick.
You might want to have a physician on here and be like, hey, why were people not being treated?
I believe it or not, it's in the works for one of them, but all the physicians that I asked that work for fucking corporations won't do it. The only ones who consider it are the private practice ones.
Okay.
That's why it's so fucking crazy because they could lose their jobs.
What did you want to ask me about fiat currencies before I go?
He's really dying to talk about it, by the way. That's like the fourth time he's brought it up.
No. This is the one thing where I can actually speak from a place.
We can come back. The next one we'll do that. So the mushroom thing, everything opened in my eyes. The COVID stuff is what made me open my eyes to other things, right? Because I was like, none of this makes sense. None of this makes sense, especially in hindsight when you think about all the things that we did. Like, why would we do that, right? And nothing changed about COVID except for Ukraine. The moment Putin invaded Ukraine, COVID kind of went away. It's very bizarre.
So in this article that I read on conspiracy theory thinking, one of the attributes of people...
He's trying to label me he's trying to diagnose me, Dave.
I don't like it. I'm over here too, Okay.
Well, don't worry, he's diagnosing me, but you're guilty by association.
One of the things that I found interesting is that they have a difficult time.
Who's they? Conspiracy theorists?
Correct. That demographic of people.
But the people that I know that believe and will entertain the things that in 1993 would not be fringe or conspiratorial. Like today it is fringe and conspiratorial, but these are questions that we would ask fucking 30 years ago when I was 13 years old. Hey, do you try, back then it was okay to say like, hey, vaccines might cause autism. We don't know. When my mother said to me, she goes, when you were born, you got 7 vaccines and now there's 72. right?
So
Not about I'm not talking about the vaccines thing, but back then we questioned everything and we trusted no one. Right?
Another point that, and then I'll tie it back to the original point I was trying to make, is one interesting thing about this fringe type of thinking is that many of the plots are intertwined.
Sure.
Okay. Which actually dilutes the probability of them being true rather than enhances the probability of them being true. Because when people go...
You're reading an article, right?
I'm reading a scholarly journal article published by Oxford. That synthesized a variety of different articles.
Oxford doesn't know what a fucking woman is, so don't fucking tell me about some article that they wrote.
So this is what did
we're true now. By the way, go cut your dick off and go sit down to pee.
As long as you're right.
Do you know what I mean?
As long as
I don't want to be that guy, right? I don't want to be the guy who's like, I'm always right, right? I want to be the guy who's like, we have to have these. We have to pull. You and I are in your head. You probably think I'm a fucking lunatic to some degree.
No. Look. Let me, because now you bring up other points that then make me want to bring up other points.
This is why it's fun to do more than 2 hours.
And then I end up forgetting about the original point.
We need a mini series.
The point is, there's a whole bunch of different commonalities with people that have, we'll call it fringe thinking, and tend to think that people are
insulting word.
What's so fringe about this thinking?
Jesus, what do you want me to call this? What I mean, it's a whole subcat. It's a whole.
Don't put it in a group. We're just people who question shit.
All right, people that question shit. But
how is that bad?
Well, because scientists do the same thing, and a lot of them get vaccinated. So I don't want to call you people that.
Yeah, but scientists do the same thing and used to lobotomize people and think that was the right thing to do.
But all right,
and that was in the 50s.
So people that are suspicious. And that
I like that. Yeah,
that are suspicious.
I'm cool with suspicious.
Okay.
Yeah,
skeptical,
even better.
And
the forensic accountant, you're taught professional skepticism,
and tend to think that powers that be or certain groups of small individuals are, what's another word for conspiring? So I don't trigger you guys here. Are colluding.
So triggered
in some way against them. Man, you guys so sensitive.
We're conservatives. That's why
I'm over here trying to like dance around.
And we might have smoked a little bit of pot.
So they, number one, all of the different theories in some way connect. So for example, people will say, well, the flat earth somehow ties into the fake moon landing, which ties into the COVID vaccine, which ties into the fires in Canada, which also ties into the water pollution in Scranton. It's all part of a big system, and they'll find some commonality and some vein that connects them all, which they think is a clever, that they've uncovered
like
some
a narrative
secret
device.
Yeah, but it actually dilutes the probability that it occurred because those are such random. So that's one thing. Okay. The second thing is they do not feel comfortable when they don't have a simple, they do not feel comfortable when there's something where they don't have an answer, where the answer might be, it's just random.
So that's what I was about to say to you.
So they see a fire in Canada happening. And
I saw that fire.
I got shit for that one, remember?
Yeah.
Right? They see a virus spreading throughout the world. They see, I don't know what the hell flat earthers see, but we see
the edge, to the ice wall. And I'm not one of them, but I'm just saying, like, you see to the ice wall.
And then there's dinosaurs on the other side, right? So there's all of this shit.
So they say.
Right?
And Stargates.
They see all this, and then they go, since I don't have an answer, I'm suspicious here.
No.
There's something's up.
I'm not like that.
So this virus is spreading all over. We don't know. Is it Wuhan lab? Is it
but you're using examples that have been confirmed to be true as as evidence to paint a picture of a subgroup of people, which I think is disingenuous. You see what I'm saying? Where you're going like, well, you're saying that like fathers love daughters, but also, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but all right. So
in your
by that
example,
logic,
you're using things that have been proved
so
true.
it is proven that the Wuhan lab had released this virus.
No, you're saying release like it's intentional. It was there.
So
and it just so
COVID-19
happened to
there.
originate in Wuhan.
Fine. So that's proven?
Yes.
It's proven.
Yes.
Okay.
They know.
Who's they?
I forget.
Is it some guy named Sal that has a blog?
No.
That found out
it's credible news sources with substantiated facts and logic.
The people who disagree would say that they're not credible. That's the point where we're at right now. That's the thing that concerns me, is that you're now forced to be on a side, and we're at the ultimate one of it, where it's the side of truth and the side of lies. And I find that to be very, very dangerous for number one, the discussion, right? And number two, for the fucking mental health of the fucking world. Because here's the thing,
this
right?
is where it is, right here.
There are two things that define reality that they tell us, right? There are ones that say science and some that say faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 2 points of view on reality.
I mean, go ahead. Finish your point.
Generally, right?
I don't know. I mean, I'm
saying like science and like religion, or because religion takes up a majority of the planet of people who believe one of like 4 religions. Okay. I believe that somewhere in the middle of that is, I guess you would call it the metaphysical, right? Where the things that we can't explain but are real. How does the dog know when you're coming home, even though you have an abstract schedule? How does the dog know 10 minutes before that you're coming home?
Big ears.
How do you know? It can't all be coincidence. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And when you think of people who stand outside of the what would I say here? The accepted science, right? The people. If 4 out of 5 doctors tell you that cigarettes that this toothpaste is good, why does the one doctor say it isn't?
You want to know why?
He might have a really good fucking reason for it, and the other 4 people might have their entire fucking livelihood is based upon that toothpaste.
There's so much extra shit with that final statement that you made that I don't even know where to start with it. But why don't we go to the core of this? Do you believe that truth exists?
Define truth.
Because
a North Korean's idea of love is different than Americans' version of love.
So then you've already answered the question. You do not believe that there is a definitive, objective truth to this world.
Is it okay to say I don't know?
Well, it's a contradiction, no matter what.
But is it okay to say I don't know?
It's okay.
Maybe I don't know. Like, in other words, so what I'm saying to you is like, is it true that I think kava is delicious? Is that true? I'm asking you.
Do you?
Yeah.
So then that's true.
I don't.
Oh, then it's not true.
It's not delicious. I like the way it makes me feel.
Okay.
Right.
So that's true.
That is true.
Right.
But if he says it's delicious and he really fucking thinks it's delicious, is that any less true?
For him, that's true. Right.
We have to. That's what I'm saying. Define truth.
So then, if you define truth,
this is a table, or like I love my wife. Like what are these? What's the truth?
Can things be boiled down to objective truths? For example, we'll use kava because it's
but this is what you're doing again. We're trying to fit it in 2 groups. We're trying to fit it in 2 boxes. We're trying to give it a binary.
Well, it's important.
I don't think the world's as binary as we want it to be.
So then your answer is no. You don't.
My answer is I don't know, which is basically the third option.
Look, there's one thing in life that you can never do, and do you know what that is?
Fly or live forever.
You cannot not make a decision.
Of course, you choose to not make a decision if you don't make a decision.
Because in not deciding,
you're making a decision.
You're making a decision not to decide.
Right.
Okay. So when it comes to truth, saying I don't know It's saying, I just don't feel comfortable making a decision.
I believe, okay, maybe this is a better way to explain it. I think truth is a magnetism. And sometimes it's strong and sometimes it's weak. So if it's strong, I believe that's truer than the weak thing where I'm just like, I don't know. Do you believe the truth can be, do you believe that the final truth on things can at some point be found? For example, there might be a time where people were like, why is that lady having these fits? Is she possessed by a demon? And it's like, well, something's not right. Was she poisoned?
But it's not exactly a demon. And then as time progresses and medicine progresses, we go, it's not, oh, we thought it was a demon. It turns out it was epilepsy. And then as a little bit more time progresses, then we go, oh, we have some interesting ways to treat it. But they suck a little bit in the beginning. And then as more time progresses, then we have like as close to a cure as we can get.
But at the time, that's true.
But at the time, it's...
You see what I'm saying?
But finally, at some point, the buck stops. At some point, we go, what we thought was a demon was actually a neurological...
Monsanto.
Was actually a genetic thing because these two chromosomes didn't link up correctly, and that's why it happened. Turns out it wasn't a demon. Ta-da! We found the objective truth. And then from there, we begin to find cures, we begin to treat it, et cetera, et cetera. So I believe, and I mean, this is just the truth, that there are objective truths in this world, and it's our responsibility to have some method and some process to try to uncover what is opinion, what is fictional, what is emotional, and what is ice cold, objective reality. It's not always apparent.
So, okay. Let me try to explain this. I think that each one of us has the responsibility of hearing, and we need to be taught this young. We need to hear all the sides.
Yes.
And therein lies, we're going to have to make a choice. You know how you said, what was the thing before you decide? Decision? What was it? It was a decision?
You cannot
decide not to decide or something like that?
Right. Well, you cannot avoid making
a decision.
A decision.
Right. So it's unavoidable.
Got to make a decision.
I'm going to have to go either way. So if it's like jump out this window to save myself or run down the stairs to save myself, one seems more perilous, but the other might be more dangerous. So like
or
running down the stairs could be fire.
Burn.
Or that. That's a third. That's another. But I look at it as I need to hear about the stairs. I need to look at the window. Right.
Okay.
And then what I'm going to have to do is I look at it as it's true that I have a higher survival rate to make one way.
Yes. Okay.
But I don't know if that's the right choice.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
So is that your definition of truth?
Because sometimes you have to just do exactly that. What you're describing is called reason. Okay.
Yes.
You have to reason through things.
Yes.
And the root, the Latin of the word reason is ratio, which is also the same root of the word ratio. And in a ratio, you're comparing one thing to another thing.
Perfect.
And then one thing to another thing. And then one thing to another thing. And you boil it down and boil it down and boil it down until it gets clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer. So in the realm of truth, our society tends to lean a bit more towards trusting science, which is not perfect.
Yeah, but I think they're doing it under the wrong pretext, which is they're doing it based on consensus.
So,
because it's always the one. What about the guy in the room that day going like, we should not fucking cut out the frontal lobes of our fucking psychiatric patients.
Yes, important.
Meanwhile, all the other ones are like, this is the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that voice needs to be given weight.
To be heard.
Okay.
He has to be heard.
But what happened over the last 4 years that made me change my mind is that one person who was like, maybe we shouldn't lobotomize the fucking our patients.
Right.
Everybody, the doctors, the nurses, the fucking media went after that person and said that they are fucking terrible. And what do? They say they're racist.
They say they're conspiracy theorists.
Can't do it.
They say all this shit, right?
They should not have done
that. And that person was right. So everybody I knew of acclaim who would be in the room and have a voice prior to this event was shut the fuck down.
They should not have treated anyone like that.
Okay, so let me ask you, as a human being, why would they do that? Why would they silence voices that
Who's the they here?
The media, the medical establishment, the fucking schools, the government. All of them were like, that person. And now 4 years later, you go, they were right.
The reason and this is an opinion, so this is how I view it. I don't think this is the definitive.
Because it's orchestrated, because it happened at the same time.
It's an emergency. We're on a boat called the United States, and we're just chilling.
This is all over the world.
Okay.
How does every country in the world decide to do the same thing at the same time?
They didn't, but they did similar things because we're people and we have a similar medicine and similar hospital systems.
And the one or two countries that went, fuck you, ain't doing none of it, had better outcomes than all of us.
So we're here in the United States. We're in our own little ant colony, to bring it back to the ants, right?
It's fucking ants.
And we're chilling.
Before we go, can I say one anecdote about ants?
Yes.
Okay.
Antidote.
And we're chilling. Wait, can I finish this point?
I'm sorry. I keep interrupting. No. I keep interrupting you like a bitch. And I don't mean to do that.
And we're chilling. And we're talking about normal shit. We're like, oh, I hate Republicans. Oh, I hate Democrats. I don't even remember what we were pissed off about in 2019. It was probably so trivial, but it was so important at that
Trump.
time.
Fuck Trump.
Yeah, Trump. The trade wars. He's so mean.
If you like Trump, you're a racist.
Right. Oh, right. So that, and then all of a sudden, boom, some missile hits the side of our ship and we start taking on water.
What missile?
COVID. There's a discussion.
Brian, stop. Wait for 1 second before you move on. If everything I said was true, we never got hit by a missile. It was a manufactured crisis.
Okay. So that's what you believe.
I don't.
I believe
that. I lean toward the truth of that.
I believe that. I don't know where the hell it came from, but I believe that it came from somewhere and it was serious. And when it was serious,
we want to find people to break into our cars. We don't want to find the people, the reason why this happened. No one has looked.
Where it comes from, I don't like. If they said, actually, it turned out it was some guy named Miguel that plays the mandolin at some Mexican restaurant.
But if Miguel got it in a cave 1,000 miles away, we should fucking concrete that cave up.
But whatever. Like in the end, the water's coming in the ship, right? The water's filling up in the ship, right?
Until you go, whoa, wait, everyone take a breath. What is this? Let's know what this is before we overreact.
So at that time, the information that we had available was telling us that it was serious. Now we know, because I lived through this.
But why would they tell us that?
Because they were scared.
They're reporters.
There were people telling us that it was serious.
Yeah, I know, but there's
people were dying.
But the people we're supposed to trust to give us the objective truth, right? 70% of their paychecks are paid for by the people who are going to benefit financially the most. And over the last 4 years, you've had the largest transfer of wealth in human history.
So
right?
let me tell you how.
From the poor to the rich.
Let me tell you how.
But if I'm a reporter, I want to go like this. I want to get this fucking right. I don't want to be first. It's less important for me to be first than it is to be right.
I'm never going to be able to tell my narrative.
I'm sorry.
Your narrative keeps trumping my narrative. Trump. Okay. So
you can't escape him.
2019, baby. So see, now I lost my train of thought.
I fucked up. I'm sorry.
So it's okay. So now an emergency is happening. Here's how I see it. Now I know you see it different. I think a legitimate emergency was occurring where a serious illness was spreading throughout the world. With that train of thought, the ship is taking on water. And what I mean by that is, bad shit might happen if we don't control this and contain this in some right. And the nation,
I'd like to be sure.
And then, well, sometimes you don't know. You see the hole and the water coming in and you go, it might be easy to patch up, but it might also be hard to patch up. I don't know. So what did we start doing? We started throwing everything at that hole to try to patch it up. Later on, we might have figured out that we patched it incorrectly. Later on, we might have found out that we overpatched it. Later on, we might have found out that we used a whole bunch of very wrong poisonous things to patch it, and all the people that were attempting to patch it somehow got cancer because we used cancer patch. But now, but I don't view it
better than Gojo.
I don't view it as a massive plot. I view it as an emergency reaction to something that now we can look and go, God damn, we probably should calm down next time this happens.
But why was the emergency reaction so poorly chosen?
Can I say this real quick?
Because we
hold on. Can I say
funded the CDC.
Do you want to know how I can prove that you're unequivocally wrong?
Sure.
How did I know?
Because you're brilliant.
We're not. Listen, we've said this a lot back here. How could two donkey dicks like us sit in the back and just chill and talk and come up with these ideas, and then 2 years later be like, "Oh, we were right this whole time"? Who am I? Who are we? We are not that intelligent.
Because the impacts of this conversation don't mean shit. If you were the president, you have to think so much more through this stuff. You and I could sit down and be like, you know what?
It seems like, hold on. It seems like him and I's way to handle this would have been much less damaging.
But here's the deal.
But here's the thing. I'm not an MD. I'm not a PhD.
Right.
I'm not the head of any fucking organization. As a matter of fact, the only thing that I was capable of doing during that entire time was to read studies, which were coming from all over the world. And as far as I'm concerned, the only thing that understands boundaries are governments. People don't understand boundaries. So you have groups of people from certain places. So if you look at data from South Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, Europe, China, all this shit, right? You know China's untrustworthy because they fucking lie all the time, right? So when COVID hit, Sub-Saharan Africa was supposed to be fucking destroyed. I'm looking at all this stuff saying to him, I said, COVID's not going to affect Africa at all. I said, it's not going to happen. Because I knew about vitamin D, right? So when COVID finally, after like 5 fucking months, hits South Africa and the Sub-Saharan Africa, you know how many people they lost? Like fucking two. How does an idiot like me, who's able to read a study and listen to the one out of the 5 doctors that said this is bad, how did I know all this shit? And why don't the people that we elected and the people that we put in charge go, hey, that guy got it right on that thing. Maybe we should get him in the room. Instead, that person was persona non grata, even though they got it right. Why would a reasonable person, because we talked about reason, why would a reasonable person take the person who can make the situation less harmful? Because this is what I believe in. Less harm. Let's do the best we can to harm people the least. Why would you take that person and not immediately bring them in the room and be like, what else do you know? Because there's a scientific method. There's a process to do it.
And
you could do it in a fucking afternoon. So how do all these fucking smart people, how do I know?
Because it's
how
like
does
this.
Dan know?
It's like this.
Or I could be right.
I'm in an industry that's highly scrutinized. I'm in an industry that's highly regulated.
Don't you think making the wrong decision would be more scrutiny?
So here's how we function. I'll do it real fast. We cover our ass with every single possible conceivable litigation and wrong misstep that you can ever imagine. Because if we make a misstep, the repercussions of that misstep are so huge and affect so many people that they are overly precautious.
Sure.
So we're talking about the federal government having to control the health of an entire population. They probably did overreact.
The federal government does not have to control the health of the entire population because the only person that controls the health of a population is that person's fucking doctor. And that's it.
The Center
for
Disease Control is in place to
who are paid
control diseases.
Who pays their budget?
The federal government.
No. The FDA and the CDC, the 60% of the money from the CDC comes from the pharmaceutical companies. That's very same people they're forced to fucking regulate. Don't tell me that that's not a conflict of interest. Don't tell me that that leads to corruption. 60%. Their fucking budget comes from the pharmaceutical companies because every drug trial has to be paid for by the drug companies. And they pay the CDC's a massive one. And once there's a conflict of interest, you go like this. I can't trust any of this, no matter what the fuck they say. Because if you had a friend who was 60% controlled by somebody who was manipulating them in their opinion, you'd be like, I can't trust a financial person. You would never fucking trust that person.
So all of this stems from the fact that you believe ill intent on the part of pharmaceutical companies.
They've been doing Vioxx. Vioxx killed fucking almost 120,000 people.
The core of this,
they knew it was going to kill them. They put it on the market. And you know why? Because the amount of money we're going to make is going to be cheaper than the amount of monies we pay out in fucking fraud and insurance claims.
So at the core of this, it's ill intent on behalf of the pharmaceutical companies that may or may not have created some product that maybe they probably didn't want to go into it hurting people, but if it happened to hurt people, so be it.
Let me ask you psychologically, right? Pol Pot
hold on. Am I representing your case here accurately? And then they
don't care about people.
The pharmaceutical companies do not care about people.
No.
Who do they care about?
Money.
They're investors and they're bored.
They don't give a fuck about people.
How do they make money? By curing illnesses.
What do they cure? They treat you for the rest of your fucking life.
They prolong your life depending on their supply.
Illnesses created how?
Okay, hold on.
That's what I'm saying.
They're
Cradle to the grave.
They're in the business.
They're in. What's the first
people?
The first thing that happens when you're born is you get vaccine.
Dude, if these companies sucked that bad and every single thing that they create is poison, they'd be out of business.
Do you know that you can't sue the pharmaceutical companies for a vaccine injury? It's impossible. You can't. A medical fucking device, a medical intervention, you can't sue them for it. Do you know what they came up with? In the 1980s, they came up with the Dole-By Act. Why did they come up with the Dole-By Act? Because pharmaceutical companies went to the fucking president and they said, hey, we can't keep making vaccines because we're losing money 20-1 on the fucking lawsuits. So the federal government says, hey, we'll handle the lawsuits. You're now hold harmless on your fucking vaccines. And what they did from that is they created something called the Vaccine Injury Fund, which has about $4 fucking billion in it to pay out vaccine injuries. 1 out of 100 cases are able to fucking bring it to trial because who do you have to sue if your kid is vaccine injured? The federal government, right? So 99% of those, you will never hear their story. They will never have justice. They will live miserable fucking lives for the rest of their lives because they were told to give their kids a thing that harmed them for life. And if it wasn't true that they didn't harm fucking people, there wouldn't be $3 billion in the vaccine injury fund from the federal fucking government.
It's probably
okay.
You're right.
So when I brought up Vioxx before, they knew it was going to kill people. They knew that it was going to fucking kill tens of thousands of people. The estimates are between 80 and 140,000 Americans that they killed from taking fucking Vioxx, right? How hard do you think it is after you killed 100,000 people to be like, we made tons of money on that? They did it knowingly, maliciously. They knew it was going to fucking kill people.
How many people did Vioxx help?
I don't give a fuck. You know why? Because the safety protocol is supposed to be, here's how many people for the vaccines, for instance, here's how many people you have to vaccinate to save one fucking life. And if the numbers don't match up, in the 1970s when they
oh my God, hold on, finish that point. My point is they probably, with any medication, have a certain proportion of that population that are going to have an adverse reaction to it. I don't know, because I don't work in the industry, what the appropriate proportion of adverse effects are.
It has to be drastic for them to get approved.
So if it's like you give it to 100 people, if 10 die, is that too much?
Way too much.
1 die?
When they gave out the vaccine in the 70s, remember the outbreak in the 70s for swine flu under Gerald Ford? Remember that?
No.
There was a huge, remember this? No. It was the swine flu outbreak in the 70s, right? They ran the whole fucking vaccinate everybody campaign, right? You know how many people died before they stopped doing that?
How many?
50. 50 people died in the 70s. They're like, get that off the market now. And it was taken off the market. Gerald Ford's getting his injection fucking on fucking television. 50 people.
Died
you know how many people died from the fucking COVID vax?
How many?
There's some in New Zealand that are 1 in 20. Some batches are 1 in 20. 70% of the adverse reactions that came from the vaccines came from 4% of the batches. And there's this website called howbadismybatch.com where you can go in there and you can put your batch and your fucking lot number from your vaccine and input it in there and see how bad your batch is, because based off of the VAERS data, which takes over 30 minutes to fucking upload from a physician, and if you lie, you go to jail for 7 years. If you lie on the VAERS data, they match up all the VAERS data with the batches, and it is fucking insane. And all the crazy spikes that you're seeing now in cancers and fucking children illnesses and all that shit, this white lung shit. I find it interesting how in the fucking safety data that they finally had to release from because a court order said you have to, because they wanted to wait 75 years to release the fucking vaccine data. This is Pfizer and Moderna, right? Everything on there is what's happening right now. Now, what I say to that is, I'm not saying that's directly correlatory, but until proven otherwise, that's the only thing that's the only variable that is put in this equation that makes things all fucking weird with health right now. And I think that's a valid fucking question to ask. So prove me wrong that those things aren't harming people. And if I'm right, to what degree?
The burden of proof lies on the person making the accusation.
There are tens of thousands, if not millions of people out there who have been injured by these things and know it. And there's people around here that I know whose kids have died, and they think it was the fucking vaccine that killed their kid. They can't say it because there's no liability. You can't sue the pharmaceutical companies for the fucking vaccine that was mandated for you to take. And you saw every fucking commercial and every fucking billboard and every fucking radio ad and every Instagram ad and every Facebook ad and every Twitter ad and every TikTok ad. Take your vaccine. Take this from the state, from the government. They were buying ads on TV. That violates the Nuremberg Code. We're only one of 2 countries in the world that allow fucking pharmaceutical advertising. Us and New Zealand. Why
dancing needles on TV?
Yeah, the vaccine. That is fucking propaganda to a degree the Nazis would be envious of. That is what we did. Because in advertising, you got to hit them 3 times. They'll buy the product. How many times are we hit with this fucking vaccine? How many times? Every day. Every fucking day. Every billboard. Every bus stop. The mayor of New York's eating fucking French fries, telling people like, you can go out and get French fries if you get your vaccine. This is fucking the height of lunacy. 500 years from the future from now, we're going to look back at this as the dark ages of fucking medicine. Oh, and what are we doing? We're making sure that all these kids get fucked up because of the climate, to a god, to the fucking rain god. This is all fucking lunacy, and it's been perpetuated in the last fucking 30 years. It's been happening our whole lives, but they really figured out how to ramp it up because we have peak pleasure and peak communication on this planet. We live in the world of pleasure, and everybody is about 4 milliseconds away from everybody else. It's never happened in human history that we know of, which is a different podcast about Göbekli Tepe. But that's what I'm saying. You put all these things together. Ask the questions. If I'm wrong, I'm fucking wrong. But no one's answered the other way. They've told me it was, but every time 100% effective vaccines, 90% effective, 70% effective, 30% effective. Get another one. We need you to get another one. If I took 3 fucking polio shots, or if I took 3 fucking chickenpox shots in a year and I got fucking chickenpox, that is a faulty product at best. Maybe it ain't killing people, but the fucking thing don't work. So you put people through I have to make a decision on whether or not I'm going to be able to pay for my kids, whether or not I'm going to be able to pay for my house. These are the pressures that they put on people. For what? For what? For something that they tell you not to treat it, and then, the only way out of this is to fucking take an experimental fucking product that we don't know what's in it, and it won't change your DNA, but it does. Because once you put that in your fucking body, you start reproducing cells based off of that.
You have to get a person.
You gotta admit, you gotta admit, man. It's not crazy.
It's just so much. It's just so much. It's like, here's the difficult thing. You have done a lot of research into this. And I have family members. What was the politically correct way? People that
birthing persons
that believe those are
ideas. The right people
are colluding not conspiracy, but something else. But I have family members that are like this, and they'll
Like
sit
me?
down like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's different. It's this too. Trust me. The whole COVID, hell no, flat Earth, a variety of different things. And when you have conversations with them, they lay on you
So much info.
so much stuff.
Yeah.
So heavy, so thick. They get themselves so pissed. They get so worked up. And then they go, what do you think about that? And then they go on a whole other thing. And they go, and then what do you think about that?
Do you know why?
And hold on.
Yeah.
And then what ends up happening is it's so much that you just sit there like this, quiet.
It just,
And then afterwards they go, see, I got them. And it's not I got them. It's just, I'm not going to sit down and read about like why the earth is flat. No one's going to, it's just like,
why is it flat?
But you could, while you're working, put on a YouTube video and say, hey, why is the earth flat? What are people saying out there?
It was,
but for me, I'm like, of what benefit will that be? If I even
imagine if it was.
Who cares?
pretty exciting.
You've been taught the wrong
It's better
thing
than
your
any
entire
TV
life.
show or movie you could ever watch.
Whatever. It's not going to affect me.
But that's okay.
Right?
But that's okay.
There was this guru that I used to love his YouTube videos. And he said, I was sitting down at a cafe and I was listening to the owner of the cafe. And the owner of the cafe was talking about how corrupt the parliamentary leader was in his district of India. And how if he was the parliamentary leader, he would change this and would change this. And the issue with all of the people in his town are that they just don't realize that X, Y, Z. And if they only did this, they would realize that that would be the thing. And if I were there, I would tell them. And the guy that owned the tea shop was telling everybody about all the ways that he would fix things if he was there. But the only issue was his tea sucked. His tea sucked.
Yeah.
So it's like, when I heard that, I'm not going to look into flat Earth, because even if I have a very well thought out opinion on flat Earth based in all of the most up-to-date research, I would serve myself and my people better by getting really good at things that will enhance me, enhance my family, enhance my community, putting effort into uncovering potential collusions doesn't seem like a good use of my efforts and time.
I hear you. I agree with yourself, your family, your community. Like that's one of the things I realized from this. Like that's the most important things, right? Where I'm coming from, and probably a lot of your family members come from, is very traumatic to figure out, like, a lot of what you know or what you were told isn't true. And it's quite frankly, it's the opposite. It's traumatic and it's scary. And it's like, you got to realize, man, like for that first year, it was like, it was dark. It was dark because you're making some hard, it's like finding out at like fucking, your father's your best friend and finding out at fucking 42 that he has this totally parallel life with like a different,
like a serial killer.
Yeah, like something just like it's Dexter. Like you find out like this.
So that means you love the government at some point, and then you're like, so you love Pfizer, you love pharmaceutical companies.
I thought they were out to help people.
You love the federal government. You love the CDC.
I always thought there was bad apples, but not to the degree.
I never gave a shit about any of them.
I know, but I always did. That's why
I never gave a shit about any of them.
But so
when they say, "Hey, the CDC lied to you," I don't go, oh, "CDC, you lied to." I don't. Who cares? Like,
so, I look at it in this way. I look at it like, and this might be foolish. This might be terrible, but when I know that people are hurting people, it bothers me, like to my core.
Maybe perhaps I am trivializing the sufferings of others.
I wasn't trying to limit what you were saying. I wasn't trying to say that you were trivializing.
And it could be that I am trivial. Maybe there are people that are suffering, and since I'm not suffering, I have the comfort of not.
Well, it's like I hate gay people until like, oh, well, my kid's gay and he ain't bad.
Gay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's totally it's human. It's totally understandable. I agree with yourself, your family, your community, right? I think yourself is the first thing that you need to take care of, and everybody you got to be cool with that, right?
It all stems out from that.
maybe it's a fault, maybe it's a flaw, but when I see people hurting other people, innocent people, bullies, that to my core, I just can't sit by and just let it be okay and ignore it like it's not happening. You know, I there are some people that do that. I can't do that. Like many of my friends are like, I believe you, but I just can't do it, man. I can't go down that road because it's too, because what they say to me is it's too dark. They go, I just want to believe everything is fucking nuts, and I'm kind of cool with just like that blanket, move on with my life. But the detail of it, that's where it gets dark.
For me, I'm okay with fighting bullies. I'm not okay with fighting boogeymen, because if there's no monster under my bed and I'm sharpening my sword to kill it, I'm wasting my time sharpening my sword. If there's an actual bully, let's fight that bully. So when it comes to conspiracy theories,
there's not
okay. With COVID, you got a lot of good stuff there. But
do I make some salient points on it?
Bring some great points up.
Okay.
But I'm saying the overarching body, like for today, I thought we were going to be talking about the Rothschilds. I thought we were going to be talking about the New World Order, the elites combining forces to overthrow and,
you can't learn about Jesus rising without learning about, the making of the earth. You got to start somewhere before we get to that stuff.
But you guys went right to COVID, and it's like
because that was my baptism.
That was your entry into it. I am not equipped to have a conversation surrounding the intricacies of virology, medicine, and nor have I done any research. But just if anything about today is useful, I want to speak for the dude that doesn't know anything about any of this stuff and just give you the general reaction that the populace has towards people that are like anti-vax.
Oh, I know. And the thing is I thought about it a lot, and I'm like, would I rather be a character to make sure people don't feel uncomfortable? Or would I rather be my genuine self and they will never have any illusion about who I am as a person, because I now know how to love more and better. I'm way more empathetic than I was 4 years ago.
That's good.
Right?
So this had a positive effect on your life.
I think it's incredibly
That's good.
No. But the thing that I've found is these people that you label conspiracy theorists are incredibly happy people.
I found it to be the complete opposite.
That's trauma. We have some of us have.
You might be the only one that I've ever seen that is well adjusted as a result of having these theories.
Well, I have a good support system who doesn't disagree with me. They all agree with it. They all agree with it.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of.
But they're not crazy. For a lot of people, it's an incredibly lonely existence. And I ask myself, I say, why would people choose to believe this, knowing that it leads to loneliness and judgment? Like, why would people do that? Relatively sane people that you knew before that turn into conspiracy theorists? But in the risk reward world, there's a lot of risk to that. And most people don't end up in happy places when they start saying things the way I say them.
It's because you now have entered an esoteric clique of people that feel enlightened, and there's joy in that.
Do I have 2-3 people? That's it.
But it doesn't matter.
A ball of lunatics.
Like a ball of lunatics.
You can get like 11 people in the stick somewhere, and they have a beautiful, happy cult.
There are so many people that I run into. How many times do I run into people who are absolute strangers?
Yeah. Oh, I've seen it. Yeah. I'll leave the bar with his wife while he's just talking to people
that I've never met before, that are with me, that are happy, well-adjusted, good people. I think there's a lot of traumatized people who get fixated on it. Like to a degree, when I was non-essential, I was fixated on finding out truth. What is true? What is true?
It's a very interesting point. During that time, I was considered essential, and I had to just stop people from making bad decisions with their money. I had no time to research any of this shit.
It took me months to go like, they have no right to do this to me. They have no right to say I can't earn a living. They have no right to say what I can or cannot do, because mandates are not laws. They're suggestions.
So on this note, my poor mother-in-law is at home watching my children. And I want to just finish.
Okay.
Well, you finish.
I want to say one quick thing. Out of all this, what I've found is the most important thing is love.
Mm-hmm.
Love your fellow man. Love your friends. Give out more love than hate.
Yes.
Because hate leads to nothing good. You ignore the people who bring you pain. They don't need to be in your life. And that's friends, family, kids, whatever. You can't. They make their decisions. They're their own DNA. They're their own social security number, however you want to look at it. You can't, and don't listen to the noise. Make your own choices for yourself. Be pragmatic. Critically think. Make your own decisions. Don't let anyone tell you what you should think. You think for yourself. Be objective.
Yes.
That's the only thing that I learned from that. Love and objectivity.
And in love, there is grace. And I think that's something that we lack now. And grace is having enough love in your heart to respect the views and opinions of your fellow man and hear them and speak with them and handle the entire interaction gracefully, which I feel that you've done that. And I hope that I have done that as well.
Why, you think I wasn't going to be?
No, I knew you would be graceful. I was afraid I wasn't going to be graceful.
You were afraid you might lose your shit?
No, I was afraid that I was just going to be like a condescending prick, and I hope I didn't come off as that.
I would have been like, hey, be a condescending prick. All right. But that's what friends do, you know?
Right,
if you got if you got like bird shit in your hair, don't you think I should tell you that, or like, you know?
But I want to respect you. I want to take the time to respect your views on this and let you speak about them.
I don't dislike. I have no animosity or dislike for anybody who doesn't agree with me. I love the idea of having discussions.
That's very good.
I think, but if there are people who disagree, most of the time I don't know them, but if there are people who disagree with me that hurt people, I have a problem with that.
Yes.
That's my moral barometer. And if you want to believe that the moon is made of fucking green cheese and there's fucking reptilian shapeshifters that live inside the earth.
Oh, that was another one we should have brought up today.
There's giants in Afghanistan, which there were.
Nephilim.
Sam Faddis said there wasn't. Yes.
He does. We'll have him back.
Oh.
But it's about love. It's about having conversations. It's about talking to each other, not at each other.
This is what makes our country great.
Well, we can't forget that because it seems like people want to stifle discussion.
Yes,
and that's what concerns me.
We should make America great again. I just came up with that.
Get him out. I like that saying.
I can't believe that, man. That was so off the cuff.
I know, right? I'm pretty smart.
Really good.
Marketing 101.
Make America great again.
Yeah. On a
Maybe
red
put
hat.
It on a hat.
Yeah, red hat. Yeah. See, we're right here.
What color? What do you think the letter should be? White?
Well, yeah, America, white.
And if we do that, I think it'd get people they'd like us more.
Yeah, we'll all wear them.
Well, I mean, because who wants to make America shitty again?
Yeah, that sounds stupid.
No,
right?
Right.
All right.
I like it.
We accomplished a lot tonight.
Yeah, we solved the world, guys.
Yeah, we should make America great again.
Let's make it great. Yeah.
Again.
Oh,
buy your t-shirts at whataweekpodcast.com.
Or Trump.com. I love you. I appreciate you.
Too.
You're a very good person. You have a great heart.
Likewise.
And I really like this. I really enjoyed talking to you. Every time I talk to you.
Currency more.
That I want to do next time. I'm sorry I disappointed you on that, aspect. So, all right.
I've done so much reading into that.
Did you like this?
Yes, I did.
Did you? So it wasn't a waste of time for you?
No, I thought it was a great conversation.
Did you like the kava?
I think so.
What did you like more, the vodka or the kava?
There was a period of time where I felt more relaxed, and I'm not sure if it was the vodka or the kava.
I think the vodka didn't kick in yet. I'm just going with that. Just
vodka or the kava.
That's not my conspiracy theory. That's just like I'm leaning that way, that the kava kicked in before the vodka did.
I only took like 4 sips of vodka.
That's enough, man. That's enough. Some girls, it made them take their clothes off. Who the fuck knows how vodka works?
Well, I'm not wearing pants right now. Can anyone see that on the?
No, that's why we keep it a medium shot. All right, thanks a lot, man. I love you.
Thank you. Love you too, Mark.
Say it, Dan.
What a week.
They turned the friggin' frogs gay. They turned the friggin' frogs gay. Serious crap gay. Frogs. It's not funny.
This is the best song ever.
Real slow for you. Gay. Frogs.
Yeah. Are you showing the video?
Oh.